and talk about some like advanced stuff. And later we're gonna, like, whenever you're ready, we're gonna play the book.
Sure.
The
No
book
racism,
game.
or I guess, as much racism as you want.
As is appropriate.
As is appropriate for the context, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly right.
Jetzt dann die Kamera einzustellen. Ne?
Yeah, camera is on.
Okay.
Podcast
All right.
is running.
All right, let's officially start.
All right, welcome, Curtis.
Thank you, Alexej.
So, how did you like your time in Vienna so far? How did you like Akademikerball?
It's amazing. There's an old line from Samuel Johnson, who said that if you're tired of London, you're tired of life. And I'm sure many have applied that to Vienna. I mean, I would, of course, love to visit Vienna with a time machine. That would be the best way to visit Vienna.
That would be the best way.
Vienna in 1886.
All the great things about Vienna have been done like 150 years ago, right?
Yeah.
All the new stuff here. There's no real startup scene.
Yeah, there's no Jews,
No, Jews are missing. Jews
are a really important part of the fabric of what I think of as Vienna, and
as an elite. And
yeah, have you considered importing them? You could put out how we feel about migration, obviously, but Jews.
Yeah,
You could have a kind of slattery plan where you basically it's birthright,
remigration.
Remigration.
Like, I'm all for that.
Or you could say, Austria might say, if you have Austrian Jewish blood, my wife has Austrian Jewish blood.
Yeah.
You're welcome in Vienna. You could repopulate.
Yeah, man.
Vienna with Jews. You'd
with
have
high IQ.
High IQ Jews.
The
You'd have
Ashkenazi
a
ones.
The Ashkenazi, the other ones. The Mizrahi. Not so much. But like new Freud.
Yeah, that'd be awesome,
New von Mises. New Johnny von Neumann.
Oh, man. All the Hungarian ones.
All the Hungarian ones. Yeah. I think just the Central European Jew is like, of course, a lost creature. We have them, and they came to America, and they changed, and
they kind of changed, but they're still great.
They're still great, but you can tell it's like a plant grown outside of its native environment. Where the cafes, where the and the Jew is a delicate flower which flourishes under certain environments and grows sort of rancid and stale under others. He needs his Vienna.
He needs his Vienna.
He needs his Vienna. And Vienna needs him.
Did you notice the Stolperstein outside the building, the golden little rock?
When is it put there? Like how?
Oh, like after the denazification, during the denazification.
Yeah.
But I love these stones.
No, they're brilliant. It's a good idea. It's actually a brilliant, subtle. It's like it's an appropriate way of remembering the Holocaust. The inappropriate way of remembering the Holocaust is to require everyone in high school to take Holocaust studies classes.
Yeah,
it's like actually it should. Everything that happens, whether it's good or bad, sort of needs to blend effortlessly into kind of the texture of history and become part of the past and a thing that happened, and not something you either focus on or over focus on.
Exactly.
And when you're sort of sacralizing some event, some period, you're just always missing some kind of subtlety. And Vienna is nothing if not for subtlety. It's like actually, and I begin to get a little bit of the Viennese vibe and how it's different from the German vibe. It's a little warmer.
Oh, that's very is it warmer?
It's well,
like
the temperature is warmer too, I assume. Although it's very cold here. But
let me tell you about like I'm ethnically Russian but raised in Germany. Moved to Vienna 4 years ago.
Right.
So
tell me the difference.
The difference is interesting. Like the Viennese, the Austrians, they consider the Germans to be quite like arrogant and stuff. They don't really like they think of the Germans as arrogant, and I disagree. I think the Germans are actually better in in a lot of the ways they're accused of than the Austrians.
The Germans are on time. The Austrians not so much.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And the Germans are well, that's basically the gist of it. Like the Austrians are have a bit of a negative reputation. They try to shove the German aside sometimes, but You know what the Germans think of Austrians?
Tell me.
They don't think about them at all.
It's like that Mad Men,
Yes,
thing.
yes. Like for Germans, Austria is like the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's like Canada for us.
It's not really that relevant, and
I can go whole weeks even without thinking about Canada. and I lived in Canada as a child, and
you
I'm
lived
I
there.
did.
Yeah.
Because some people say I have a Canadian accent because I lived there a little bit when I was 2, and I don't think I.
Do you speak French?
I spoke. I was taught French in immersion there, so I spoke French when I was 3 years old, and then I forgot it all. I mean, a little bit, but not in a real way.
But what I noticed about the Germans is that the Germans are a bit more like the Prussian army, and also like the Second World War German army was pretty competent. Yeah, they were pretty good. And I think it was because it was very much, especially the Prussian one, very much a meritocracy.
Yes,
it was
yes. I mean, the German army was incredible, and some of the things that some of the stereotypes that people that have of Germans are actually true in the opposite. So one of the things that made the German army so excellent is this principle, which all other armies have since copied, Auftragstaktik.
Auftragstaktik, exactly.
Yes, where they actually they win by giving independence, to commanders. That's
it's in German, though.
Of course. No, I have not read all of Clausewitz. I've read bits of Clausewitz, but I mean,
there's something to it.
There's something to it, and They Understand War. One thinks also of the Paul Celan poem, Death is a Master from Germany. I think They're Told is the name of the poem. It's a classic, sort of mid-20th century poem.
Yeah.
But I always think Death is a Master from Germany.
Death is a Master from Germany.
Death is a Master from Germany.
Based,
incredibly based. Well, speaking of death, there's a line from D.H. Lawrence from his travelogue of, I guess, Mexico, which is where he's like, America is the great death continent.
The great death continent.
The great death continent. And and there's a number of ways in which that's true. And one of the ways in which it's true is I feel, I may be a racist, but I feel that all populations have their own special genius in a way. I mean, this is a kind of racism. And there's a positive racism to it. It's like basically think about, you don't even have to say it, think of the African genius, think of the many things that Africans have a genius for. Maybe not math and chess, but
yes.
As I said, once to my wife, it's very possible that the funniest person in China is not as funny as the average African American.
Yes. Oh man,
Chinese
that's
comedy,
so true.
Chinese comedy, spare me, right? But the genius of the North American indigenous peoples, as we call them these days.
What is their genius?
Indigenous peoples.
Yeah.
Yes, Indians. Sorry. And the genius of the North American Indians, in every way, is a genius for torture. They were masters of torture. It was deeply, rooted in their culture all the way from Massachusetts to Mexico. Now, the Mexicans, the Aztecs, legendarily came from the north, so they sort of partook in that tradition. But, for example, do you ever see the Disney movie Pocahontas?
Yes.
So the villain in Pocahontas is a real person who existed, Captain John Ratcliffe.
Yeah.
Of course, Pocahontas is not historically accurate.
Yeah,
but
probably not.
Historically, actually, what happened to Captain Ratcliffe is he was captured by Pocahontas's dad and their tribe, and then he was treated in the traditional way, which is that all of his skin was scraped off with sharpened mussel shells, face last. So they flayed his face and then probably killed him in some other painful way. And this work, even more, I mean, maybe this is in the outtakes to Pocahontas. Maybe if you get the DVD with the outtake edition, you get this part, right? And or maybe they just shot it for fun or animated it for fun. But this is actually woman's work. So it's actually the flaying of the prisoners, obviously they're not dangerous, they're tied down, is actually done by the woman of the tribe. And so there's no record of whether Pocahontas herself actually participated in the flaying ritual.
But
maybe she did. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it was Tuesday. She had to get her hair done. But like this was a normal like routine thing.
Female job.
Female job, right? And the sense of torture, and this is again consistent all the way from the Iroquois to the Aztecs, is that the torture of a captured prisoner is very important because the prisoner's ability to resist torture, it basically conveys spiritual power to the captor. If you captured a great brave, it was very different from if you captured some twink pussy, right?
And you don't have to eat the person. Just torturing them is enough to get the spirit energy.
Yeah. Well, also the Aztecs had this thing where they would wear the skin. They would skin, ideally while alive, they would skin the captive, and then they would wear his skin still started to get a little rotty and smelly. And that way they would absorb his spirit. But of course, if you cried like a baby or whatever, it's just like, who even wants that skin?
Sure.
Right. There's a legend, there's an Iroquois story of a great Huron warrior who they captured, and they're doing the thing to him, and they started by cutting off his hands and his feet, and he somehow escapes from his bonds, takes a knife in his teeth, and on his stumps with the knife in his teeth he attacks.
Oh man!
Now, is it successful? No, obviously not successful. But it's like it shows tremendous
spirit,
tremendous spirit. And
okay, that's not the kind of geniuses we want to be, right?
No. But we have to respect. Obviously, we have to respect indigenous peoples, right? And we have to respect their folkways, their ways of being, their knowledge, and. So, as multiculturalism, all that's a big thing. And, more and more you're seeing indigenous ways of knowing taught actually at our great universities. So I think it may only be a matter of time before Harvard has a department of torture. You'll take torture 101, obviously survey class teaches a lot of different kinds of torture, but then you get into the torture 120, torture, 222 advanced stuff. At first you're learning about only the theory, then, you practice on a dummy. You can totally see it. And they're taught by native experts, native professors.
But it feels like being in academia nowadays, or just a student of like stuff that is math and computer science is torture enough, isn't it?
It is. What was your experience in academia? Did you have fun? And did you go to college or?
Oh yeah, I did. I studied computer science and economics in Karlsruhe, Germany, which has the German Supreme Court, which is interesting. They put it in Karlsruhe on purpose to symbolize like distance from Berlin. It's like the third power. But yeah, I studied there, and as I just want to be like a entrepreneur. I always want to be an entrepreneur, but have couple of failed
But you're in Europe,
startups.
so it's hard.
Yeah, in Europe it's a bit it's a bit harder. Money is hard to
it's hard to raise. It's hard to do anything in Europe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but the buildings are nice, right? The facades and stuff. Right?
Amazing. I don't know why we can't build these things anymore. I mean, we can, but we don't. We could, but we don't.
100%.
No, it's being in a real. I mean. Fundamentally, like there's a lot that can be said for America, but it was sort of, 100 years ago, it was kind of the China of its time. It's just like, all right, they make a lot of stuff. They have no culture, and they want to copy our culture at every possible moment. And that was sort of the perception of America 100 years ago. And I guess it's still true to some extent, but I don't know.
Interesting. Well, coming back to like your time here, so Akademikerball was
the Akademikerball. So the Akademikerball, for those listening, means the academic ball, but it's not. They don't do math, science. It's not that kind of academic. It's actually the Burschenschaften, which are academic fencing fraternities, and so they have the special hats. The Germans invented the fraternity, but basically in in an American fraternity, the games are like beer pong. Beer pong, you get the ball and then you drink. Beer.
I'm very good at it.
Yeah. I'm nothing against beer pong. But for these fraternities, it's like the fraternity game is like I slash your face off.
Yeah.
And then you're scarred for life, and it's cool. The schmeisse,
Yes.
And so you see the people with these facial scars.
With scars, and it's a high status marker.
It's a high status marker.
Nowadays, I think it's very much a LARP. And especially these Burschenschaften, they have they kind of have a bad rap in Germany, and well, they're considered to be very like SA type kind of people, intellectually not very, and it's LARPy. They've been like yesterday, like at the Akademikerball, I literally got a death threat.
You got a death threat?
Yeah, I got a death threat. It wasn't that funny. Like it was like a physical altercation. It didn't back down, but.
What was the cause of this?
It's a long story. It's a very, very petty. Well, there's a lot of like anti-Semitism and anti-Slavic sentiment with these Burschenschaften, and it is sincere and it is real.
Yes.
And also there was like.
Are you Jewish as well as Slavic, or?
I got a little bit of Ashkenazi in me.
Yeah.
But that wasn't. And then there was like a domain dispute, right? Because I registered a certain domain. The guy wants this domain, but he could just change the letter or pick a different top-level domain. Like, why does he need my domain? Like, why does he...
And was that involved in the death threat, or was that was something different?
Well, yeah, it's all placed together. So these guys are pretty rough. Yeah. Like remind me of SA. Like it's not a fun. Like it's not a joke, right?
No. Of course.
I'm probably gonna file a police report tomorrow. Yeah.
Really?
It was really not cool. Yeah. Like I got a family as well. Like it's not. Come on. Like that's a red line we shouldn't cross. Especially
what would be his version of the the police interview him? What does he say?
Well, I don't know. Who needs the Untermensch? But, I don't know what his.
How could he tell that you were Slavic or Jewish?
Oh no, I know him. Like
you know him.
He has been to these He obviously won't be coming again, right?
Yeah. So it's personal. It's not random.
No, not random. But this is totally like on me. Like you're completely safe. Like you're the. Like,
no, I'm not. It's interesting actually. Experiencing the. The experience of with both of the events, with all three of the events I was at, there was serious, I guess, real police protection, and maybe not at the first. At the first, were there police at the Albert Hall?
No, there were no police.
No, there were no police, but there was security still in a way.
Yeah. And they said that themselves. These people are competent. These people European conservative are a good bunch of guys.
Yeah, and and it's sort of like of course we have these people in America too, but it's a shadow of what it is here.
Really,
and yes,
that's
definitely.
So interesting to me because you multiple times you expressed. Like being impressed by the police showing up, and I was like, "Come on, he's from the U.S. This is probably standard for him." This was not standard.
I think it would be very hard to get police protection for something like this. Well, it's like the analogy that I thought of after seeing this is like, for me, worrying about these people when I come to Europe is like someone from Europe comes to California and he's like, "Will there be an earthquake?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't really think about earthquakes. It's not a thing. But when you live in California, you're very like worried about the next big one. I live a very short distance from the Hayward Fault, which is the one. It's less known than the San Andreas, but it's like a San Andreas class fault.
Oh,
so the ground could split open at any moment. You live in California for 30 years, and sometimes it shakes a little bit, and maybe something might fall off a shelf, but it's not the big one. But there's always.
Sounds like maybe the apocalypse will come soon, which reminds me of the whole, the recent Peter Thiel thing where he's like giving these lectures on the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Who's the Antichrist?
Well, I mean, if you can identify the Antichrist, then there's no suspense. All the fun is lost.
Yeah.
It's more. it's like, the concept, first of all, when you're talking, there's an interesting use of the article or not. Like some people say Ukraine and others say the Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'll only say the Ukraine because I like dead naming. But
in Germany, everyone says die Ukraine. Like nobody says just
and do they want to? Are they trying to change the way they say it in German? Or?
I'm not sure.
There's also this craze. If you're a really hardcore pro-Ukrainian, you do this thing where you don't capitalize Russia, or you spell it with Z's.
It's like black and white people.
I know, it's so embarrassing. It's just
it's cringe. It's cringe.
It's cringe.
Very
it's cringe.
transparently cringe.
It's very cringe. Have you ever heard my definition of cringe?
No, enlighten me.
Cringe is anything that lets other people see you better than you see yourself.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. Wow.
Yeah, that's cringe.
That's food for thought.
Yeah, that's a good way to remind yourself. Just check yourself. Am I being cringe?
Yeah, just have some self-reflection. Not navel gazing, but not.
Yeah, just be able to see yourself as others see you.
Yeah.
And you'll never be cringe.
Yeah.
But few of us can meet that.
For sure. Yeah.
Meet that very high standard. It's a. I don't know. Vienna is. It's a. The spirit of the city endures even,
Does it?
Yeah, without any Jews. I mean, its architecture is so lasting,
Yeah.
And actually we're right near, I'm walking past, as someone told me, the Art Institute, which changed history by, not admitting Hitler. So
not admitting the Austrian painter.
Yeah, indeed.
It's very, very close by.
It's very close by. And, was it a close decision? Did they argue about it in the admissions committee? I don't know.
Sure.
But no. It's
very historic.
Can you visit? Is it possible? Here's a question: is it possible to visit the men's hostel that the painter lived in while he was here? Because he lived, when he was hanging out with August Kubizek, he lives in this men's hostel that's renowned for male prostitution, among other things, and he's living, he's on, his head is, even when he's penniless in Vienna, his head is full of, huge mystical visions, right?
Oh.
But, his life is a tough one.
And he was jobless for a while, and homeless for a while. But
does anyone give the Hitler tour of Vienna? Does that?
Well, we tried to give it. Well, you had a lot of appointments. We were trying to give you the Hitler tour, but
next time.
I know that funny enough, Solbra, who was also here.
Yeah.
He stays at a hotel, which is and he got the Hitler suit. He was looking for the most.
The Hitler suit.
No, but it's not called that officially. But he's in the most Hitler kind of hotel you can be, where the Austrian painter stayed.
Wow, the Hitler suite. Yeah, that's there's a little plaque saying.
Yeah.
There should be plaques all around Vienna, Hitler was here.
There should be. Yeah.
Like the zones, It's, no, it's a miracle that the city was not destroyed by the Red Army too. There's just there's so much.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Hitler.
No, I'm not either. I'm not either. He really. Hey, let's.
Let's not. Yeah. I can't show it in Germany anyway.
Really, you can't actually. You just to show the book.
No, you got to blur it. You got to blur it 100%.
But that's, you can buy editions of it in the stores, right?
It's not that this one's imported from the US, the one I got.
So you can only buy sort of the scholarly edition, basically, or
kind of. And then there's forced commentary, it makes it all which you talked about today. It's good to go in there with an open mind, or just try to figure out yourself what is being said.
Yeah, and in a way, that's not the most interesting Hitler book. The most interesting Hitler book is definitely the Table Talk.
Yeah.
Have you read the Table Talk?
Yes, I have. Yeah, where is it? Yeah, but I haven't. It's very interesting. Yeah.
It's very interesting. It it really. There you go. It's pretty unvarnished. It's probably unedited, and it exposes both I got in trouble apparently for tweeting that, Hitler is a genius. Of course Hitler is a genius. He's an evil genius, right?
Yeah, an evil one.
An evil genius. I was like, what? Everybody knows he's an evil genius. What are you even thinking, right?
He's clearly not bad at...
He's clearly brilliant. I mean, many people for like serious professionals are just like impressed by he has this weird encyclopedic mind where he knows all about like how a certain opera house is designed and, in weapons also he has, But, the problem is that he trusted his intuition a lot, and he trusted it too far on many, many subjects. And so that led him in directions where he was just wrong. He was wrong that he was fighting a war against the Jews. The Jews were not fighting a war against them. The progressives were fighting a war against them.
Yes.
And that caused him to make many military and diplomatic miscalculations. But again, there are cases where he's right and his generals are wrong. And so
like the whole France thing. I think his generals were
I think Manstein came up with the plan, but I think Hitler was a big part of. He may have had the idea himself, and he was a big part of promoting this alternative plan from like lower ranked, officers. Hitler also basically most of his supporters, most of his sort of closest confidants thought that attacking the Soviet Union was crazy because he was starting a two-front war. Hitler, in fact, realized that he was already in a two-front war.
He was already in
a two-front war. And so again, the problem is when you have a role that important, like, errors in a way, like, Hitler's anti-Semitism in a way is just like, it's just an error. He doesn't understand, and how would he even know like what, he's never been to London. How would he know like the meaning, what it means to be a Jew in London or New York, right? And so he winds up with this, the sort of strategic thinking behind the Holocaust is really extremely clear. He's basically like, all right, fighting a war against the Jews, you read some stupid New York Times article where it's like the Jews declare a war on Germany, whatever. He's fighting a war against the Jews, and he's like, aha, I have the trump card. Because I have all these Jews in Central Europe that I can hold hostage. And the Jews, since they're animated by racial feeling, will basically, lay off of me because they know that I have these hostages. And I'm like, wow, you're really wrong. First of all, not only are the Jews not really animated by racial feeling, and it's not the Jews who are important in this situation, are actually assimilated Jews who don't really think of themselves as Jewish. They're like wasps of Jewish ancestry. Like a Brandeis or a Frankfurter, for example. Number one, that's problem number one with that idea. Problem number two, which is even worse, it's almost funny in an extremely dark way, is that one of the many things Hitler did not understand about Jews was that to the extent that there were influential Jews in London and New York, as there certainly were, there were what we call Yekes. They were German-speaking Jews. My ancestors were Yiddish-speaking Jews. Yiddish-speaking Jews. So the Yiddish-speaking Jews and the German-speaking Jews are so different. They have racial slurs for each other. Yeke is a racial slur. The racial slurs that a Yeke will use to talk about one of my ancestors would be like kike. Kike is actually Jewish, a Jewish word.
Jewishly invented slur for other Jews.
Jewishly invented slur for other Jews.
For other Ashkenazi Jews as well.
For other Ashkenazi, Mizrahi.
Yeah, we don't care about
Don't, no, let's not go there, right? It's an ugly subject, but I'll go there. In Eichmann in Jerusalem, in the Hannah Arendt, book, there's this
banality of evil.
The banality of evil comes from there, but there's also this moment there where she's describing the trial and she's describing Israel, and she basically describes the Ashkenazis as the sort of colonial ruling class, and the Mizrahis as like basically Oriental natives. Like essentially she's Orientalizing the Mizrahim, which is not accepted. Some sort of Israeli racism. It's like Jew on Jew racism. In any case, Hitler's idea of like, I'm going to take these Yiddish-speaking Jews hostage to deter the German-speaking Jews is like, I'm going to take a bunch of Serbs hostage to deter the Croats. Right? And the Croats are like, well, I feel like I should feel something here, but it's like not coming from the heart, and that's why that is one of the many reasons why the New York Times covers up the Holocaust, which is, as I was telling people earlier, if you go to the New York Times site, there's a, 150th anniversary edition where they're like, now it is time to apologize for covering up the Holocaust. And you're just like, why would the Jewish-owned, if you're like, have either a Nazi or like a normal liberal thinking about, the period, you're like, why would a Jewish-owned, rabidly anti-German newspaper cover up the Holocaust? Yeah. That makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all.
No, it makes perfect sense. Let me tell you why. So basically, the Holocaust was not useful. Far from, you'll have like a neo-Nazi take, oh, the Holocaust is Allied propaganda. Oh, this is just wartime propaganda. Actually, you read the wartime propaganda, there's not a single mention of it. Actually, there's not even a mention of Jews. Hitler is certainly presented as a baby eater, but he just likes to eat babies, right? Any kind of baby will do. The reality was that it's very simple why they can't use the Holocaust as propaganda. If, FDR comes out and makes a speech about the Holocaust, Hitler pops out of his bunker. And he's like, yes, well, you must remember from World War I, the British, atrocity propaganda. Later, we would find out that it was all lies. Yeah. It wasn't all lies. It was just 95% lies. And, they're doing again the same old tune, the atrocity propaganda. But now we hear about the Jews. Yeah. And, my fellow Germans, I've been telling you for a long time that this war is about the Jews. Mm-hmm. And now Mr. Roosevelt has come out and he agrees. He tells me that this war is about the Jews. So, and it's just like it's like a chess move. You're if I make this move, he'll make that move, so I can't make this move.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And so that's why, also, I don't know that bombing the train tracks leading to Auschwitz or anything would have, they don't have precision. How do you bomb a train tracks with that technology? But that's why they can't really do anything to stop it. Moreover, they have basically no sympathy for Jews themselves. Yeah. Most of the Allied leaders, they don't really like Jews. There was no attempt to get the Jew to help, like when the Jews are fleeing Hitler, of course, as you probably know, all the doors are closed to them everywhere. Yeah. And again, the reason the doors are closed to them everywhere is, number one, Americans and, British people just, they don't really like Jews. They're totally free to say this at the time. Everyone's like, I don't really like them. So that's a political problem. But also, why does FDR basically keep the door shut? He's like, well, Hitler has a Jewish problem. Am I in the business of solving Hitler's problems for him? Yeah. What the hell? And like that's sort of the mentality of the time. And again, it's just one of these things where it's like, you can tell the story of World War II as a Marvel movie using only true facts. Yeah. But you have to leave a lot of facts out. Yeah. And those facts basically, when you put them in, you're just like, wait, is it what? Wow. What are we thinking?
It makes sense in a different way.
It makes sense in a different way.
Chess kind of way.
Yeah, it makes sense in a different way, and you sort of you start to see the sort of real history rather than comic book history, and like. The problem is that our whole polity, our whole sort of theory of where we are in this frame is based on World War II comic book history. Yeah. And, where the New Europe is the like World War II comic book hero that, so for example, one of the consequences of basically denying the Jews asylum, a word that you've probably heard before. It refers to lunatics as well as mass migration. I'm like, yes, definitely we got some asylum going on here. Yeah. And, many of these sort of human rights things that are adopted after the war are sort of adopted out of guilt of like not letting, the Jews in. So basically we have this, wonderful, if, occasionally problematic population fleeing death, and, it looks in retrospect completely insane and evil that, the story of the St. Louis, for example.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well.
right. So, this is, and people realize, hey, we did this insane, evil thing, so they correct for it. And they're like, well, we have to have these rules that you have to let asylum seekers in.
Yeah.
And, that goes from, we have to let in, John von Neumann and his, his family to, who otherwise are going to die, to we have to let in, because he,
needs a job.
Needs a job, and he's been watching porn and he thinks white girls are really hot. That's a factor that's not mentioned enough. Is that there's a sexual pull factor.
100%. Like statistically, like white women are the most attractively, rated.
That's
by all
races. I know that's certainly how I feel
Me too,
myself.
yeah, 100%,
and hey,
yeah.
would you ever? You wouldn't with a non-white.
Well, I would, and I did, but would. But what annoys me is that like the long-term consequence of all the, like, he gave eugenics a really bad rap.
Yeah.
And it's not what Hitler did is not eugenics. Eugenics is about like
the U means good.
Yeah, it means good. What is good? Like intelligence? Isn't that a good
intelligence, thing? No. I mean, now, you can say, it's funny because my father looks like a Nazi caricature of a Jew in some ways. He looks like, it's not the nose. He has more of a Roman nose, so he looks more like Muammar Gaddafi, but he does not look like an Aryan at all. There's no way my father could pass for an Aryan.
Sure.
He marries what we call a shiksa.
Shiksa.
I marry a shiksa, and, my son from this marriage could be in a Hitler Youth poster. No problem at all.
Yeah,
completely. Yeah. And he's also he has a very Aryan kind of personality. He's a jock. He's a sports kid. He's like because my first wife was of almost pure German blood.
Wow.
Because she was basically from Ohio, peasant German stock. A lot of Germans went to Ohio. So she would be in a strange foreign country and people would start speaking German to her because she looks so German. Right. So my son actually is very German, psychologically in a lot of ways, and his sister, very Jewish. Right. And she looks more Jewish. She acts more Jewish. You might even be surprised that they're siblings in some ways.
Interesting.
And, and so it's like, inheritance of neurological traits is not just IQ. The brain is a very complicated thing. Yeah. And, to say there's a Jewish character, there's a Chinese character, there's an African character, of course, everybody is different. But there's nothing wrong with saying those things. And, I believe them to be true. And so actually there is, people talk about, for example, the Jewish revolutionary temperament. Mm-hmm. Why are so many revolutionaries Jews? And it's like, yeah, that's the thing, and the Jewish revolutionary temperament has created many great things and many kind of awful things. And, it's just a thing. And as is, all of the, just you were talking earlier about the difference between Germans and Austrians. Maybe that's cultural, maybe it's not. It's an interesting, it's like, if you think of there being a genetic cline from, Italy all the way up north, you see that there's also a cultural cline, from the Mediterranean, the relaxed Mediterranean, show up 2 hours late to the party, to, all the way, even between Bavarians and Prussians, right? There are huge differences. Do many Germans these days identify as Prussian? Do they No. Prussia has a bad name,
Prussia is not a thing anymore. Very few.
No, I saw maybe on Twitter or something. I saw someone was talking about Poland and migration. I think this was a migration fan or something, and
the map of Poland.
The map of Poland, and they drive. Telling about this, they draw this map of Poland, and they're like, they circle this area, and this is wow. They're just like, this area is really underpopulated. We could use some immigrants here. The map is like, Poland is like this. The map is like this. I'm like,
Prussia's still there.
It's West Prussia, right? And of course, the reason why Prussia sounds like Russia is that was Prussia was taken over by the Teutonic Knights, but there was a population of indigenous Prussians there who were actually a Slavic people.
Oh,
that's why it sounds like Russia.
Huh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I think these people are long since vanished. Probably. Done away with in some way, but it's a tough time. But it's what was lost in Eastern and Central Europe is just is fairly incredible. And
it's a tragedy. Yeah.
It's a tragedy, and there's so much destruction of beautiful cities, so much unnecessary destruction of beautiful cities. Vienna could so easily have been destroyed by the Red Army. Do you know what happened there? Like, why wasn't it destroyed by the Red Army? Did the Germans evacuate the city in a timely fashion?
Oh, I'm not that sure why they did not. Well, it feels like the Russians were kind of sympathetic to like Austria-Hungary always had like a bit of a Slavic, or Balkan kind of vibe ethnically as well, and. I feel like the Russians didn't feel like, and then they made Austria like a neutral thing, right?
Yeah, it's strange because Austria is really the only place where the Red Army retreats from territory it's captured, right? In other places, if the Soviets, maybe even parts of Berlin also, but generally, like, the Soviets did not retreat from anything that they'd captured. But in Austria, as I recall, in Austria after the war, there's a sort of condominium. They're like joint occupying powers, and there's like 100%. Regular like weird incidents between Americans and Russians. Eventually they get the Russians to pull back and evacuate the place. But we could easily. I'm saying we could easily be in Red Vienna, but I walk outside and we're in Red Vienna.
Nowadays we are in Red Vienna. Yeah, there's this Neutralitätspakt. Like, there's this Austrian Day of Day of the Nation, whatever, how do you call it? And supposedly, like, the myth is that's the day when the last Soviet soldier leaves, and they signed the treaty that they're going to be neutral forever.
Right. And Austria is still not a member of NATO. It's not.
I don't think it is. It's not a NATO country. No,
they're neutral forever. I don't know how much it means in the modern.
Nowadays it's not that neutral anymore. Like with the Ukraine situation, it's
is everyone around? It's just normal in Vienna to be like fanatically pro-Ukrainian.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Like, if you're pro-Russian, you have to hide it, right?
100%. Yeah, you don't. Yeah. And there used to be like, but it's in all of Europe, basically, all of Western Europe had the Ukrainian flags.
Oh yeah, in I guess it was summer of 2022. I took my daughter on vacation to Portugal, and we're in this little town, Setúbal, which is about an hour outside Lisbon, and wow, the people of Setúbal, fanatically pro-Ukraine, which you can tell by all the beautifully lettered, immaculately drawn, I guess they were pre-printed, signs all over, like, we support Ukraine, they're all in English for some reason, right? It's like, it's about as artificial as it gets, right? And just to see, it's just like, you look at this sort of artificial consciousness raising, which is so reminiscent of the Eastern Bloc, right? It's like the greengrocer sign in the Václav Havel, thing. We support Ukraine, Black Lives Matter, it's just like, it's freaky how, I think that actually, in a way, well, certainly you see less of the Ukraine propaganda around now, because I think people are a little more conscious that they're like promoting a meat grinder.
The meat grinder is been going on for so long. Nowadays, it's kind of divided. And now, like in the Palestine situations, you've got way more Palestinian sympathizers. Yeah, there's more energy there. The flags get replaced by the Palestinian flags.
The Omnicause, right? The Omnicause.
Yeah, the Omnicause.
The Omnicause. You know, and it's like, you know, one of the things about the Omnicause, here's an example. It's often the anomalies that basically show you what's going on in a situation. And here's an anomaly. So among the many acts of like vast environmental destruction that's going on is the Chinese overseas fishing fleet, because China sends basically boats all around the world to like South America and other places to just strip mine the oceans.
Strip the commons.
Strip the commons.
Public goods problem.
And public goods problem, right? And it's just rampant environmental destruction and they don't care.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is that not a huge cause célèbre? Why is not everybody not super excited about? Imagine if, God forbid, Elon Musk was stripping the oceans of fish. Instead of SpaceX, it was FishX or OceanX. OceanX, you can start OceanX, right? He's like, we're going to live underseas and underseas bases, probably better than the moon, right? But actually, he's like stripping, you know, the South Pacific of like fish, you know. You would have tens of millions of people lined up to like strip his face with mussel shells, basically. They would pay for the privilege.
100%.
But when it's China doing it,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares. And it's not because they love China particularly. It's because China is a hard target. It's because actually nobody in China cares what they think. It's because they have no leverage over China. So actually, there's no victim, there's no target to attack. And every time a leftist expresses love for something, it's disguising the real emotion, which is the hate for something else.
Yeah.
And it's a very hate-based, you know...
Or like ressentiment, you know? Like
ressentiment, yeah, you know, it's like basically... And if there's nothing to resent, there's no energy, and it never gets off the ground. It's like actually... You know, when you know, like think about climate activism, Greta Thunberg, right? You know, if you believe in the climate crisis, you know, the climate crisis. How do you say it in German? It's one word, climate crisis.
Klimakrise.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, which is amazing because normally when there's a crisis of some kind, like, you know, let's say wolves, you know, are running in the city. Like there's a wolf crisis.
Yeah.
How would you say that in German? Give me a wolf crisis.
Wolfskrise?
Yeah, exactly, right. And the thing is, if you think there's a wolf crisis, you know, if someone was to convince you that there was a wolf crisis, it would be like, my aunt got eaten by a wolf every day in the newspaper.
Like that,
stories of wolf attacks. You
I
know,
saw a wolf
I
with
saw
my
a wolf,
eyes.
right? You know, but yeah, with a climate crisis, it's like actually if nobody told you it was happening, you would not know.
Nobody would notice.
Nobody would notice at all. And, you know, somehow the greatest worry on the planet is things that nobody would notice. Now, it's true that on the fringes, it's true, you know, you generally have a sense that, you know, our winters are less snowy than there were 50 years ago, especially the 70s were a cold period. And I remember, you know, big snowfalls in the 70s that are a little bit rarer now. Global warming affects the poles more. And so if you go to North Alaska, you might notice that, you know, the seals are going up farther out to sea or whatever. But there's a kind of hypochondria there where you have to like work really hard to notice the symptom. You're like looking at the moles on your body under a huge microscope, and you're just like under the microscope. Cancer, you're just like, wow, you know. Then you're Googling on the internet. You're like, this looks exactly like cancer. Actually, I think I have not just one melanoma, but 4 or 5. You know, and that kind of hypochondria of like exaggerating small things. Yes, it's a huge crisis that, you know, the walrus population in Alaska has dropped by 30%. You know, I'm just made that up. There are probably even more walruses.
But I just wanted to say, like in Germany, like in the 70s or 80s, there's been this huge fear, first of all, of acid rain. And then also like the Waldsterben, like forest. Waldsterben is forest death, right? People are like really worried that the forests are going to die. There have been real protests in the 70s or something in Germany about this.
But aren't there plenty of forests?
Yeah, actually, like Europe is is greener. Like if you look at the satellite images, it's getting more and more green because of the CO2, right?
The CO2, and
also the CO2 has to rise. Like it's like a logarithmic kind of thing, right?
Yes.
You need to double CO2 to get the same.
I know. Back before I was banned from Hacker News, I was just like, wow, these people who are technically literate, who understand logarithms, right, are worried about this, and do they understand that basically, rather, I think a lot of people think of, the climate crisis as an exponential effect, or at least a linear effect. No, it's actually logarithmic. Yeah. Like you get another degree every time you double the thing, right? And it's like you're worried about a logarithmic effect.
Exactly.
Wow, that you can't perceive in any way, shape, or form. And meanwhile, I'm just like, what about the graffiti crease? Like I drive around. It's always when I come to a German, if I go to Brazil and I see graffiti, I'm like, I'm in Brazil, right? Actually, Brazil has a unique, kind of native style of graffiti. They don't just copy Black Americans. There's a Brazilian graffiti style, but of course, Brazil, you see graffiti everywhere.
It's good graffiti. Like some of it is good.
Yeah, I mean, there can be good graffiti art. Sure, you go to China, no graffiti. There's no graffiti. I mean, graffiti in Japan. Can you even imagine?
Singapore,
they will beat you with a cane
immediately,
and it will hurt. It will really leave scars.
So people don't.
And so the idea of going to a German country and seeing like graffiti in a German country, it's just like you feel that there's like something really wrong there.
Yes.
Like there's a real, like Berlin, the leftists in Berlin, they want Berlin to be grimy. They want it to be grungy. They want it to be ugly, and I'm just like, wow, you are really sick.
It is pretty sick. Yeah. It's in a bad way.
In a bad way, not sick in a good way, right? But you have these squats in Berlin, Neumann, it's a disaster.
Wow, it's a total disaster.
It's a total disaster.
Like property rights and stuff, they're
the squatter rights,
Squatter rights.
Well, that was a big thing. I mean, the squat houses. I mean, Berlin, as I understand it, is Berlin a very expensive city now, or is it medium?
Actually, I think it's pretty medium.
Yeah, but it was very cheap in the 70s, 80s, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that created a certain atmosphere. But I'm just like, does this have to be grungy? It's like.
Yeah, and obviously Berlin is leftist, so they implement all the non-libertarian, socially desirably good sounding, like rent, Mietbremse, Let's put the brakes on the rent. It's like rent control. And then people can't move out. Like if you're in, you have an incentive to stay.
Right.
It's allocated inefficiently.
They're going through that in New York, all again.
With what's his name?
Mamdani.
Mamdani,
It'll be,
the homeless are disappearing though.
Well, no, he had, there's an interesting horseshoe effect where he's like, we're going to sweep the homeless off the street, because of the winter storm. And then 20 of them die and he, in the winter storm. Right. And, he's sort of ostensibly sad about this, but there's also something Nietzschean there. You're just like, Mamdani is frightening.
Is he?
He's just no soul. He's like a completely, anyone who sees this person who's had to deal with like a soulless, narcissistic sociopath, he's always happy, he's always smiling, he's got energy, right? And
but in a scary way.
But in a scary way that just reveals that this person has no soul.
Wow,
and hopefully he won't be in a situation where he really has to demonstrate that. But, it's New York, for what it's worth, all Americans both hate and love New York. It's completely awful in all of these ways, but it's also one of America's few real cities that has sort of the buzz of a European city, that has old districts, Soho is very nice in a lot of ways. It's a lot like this, but with wacky East Coast American weather. But, it's also, I don't know how have you ever seen Taxi Driver, New York in the 70s?
Oh, wow, man, it's one of my favorite movies. Robert De Niro, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I love that movie. Yeah, it's great. Very real.
Someday a real rain will come. Wash all this scum off the streets.
Based.
Based Travis Bickle.
Travis Bickle.
But
He's very woke though, the New right?
Yeah,
Like,
but if you see like, you know, Fort Apache, the Bronx, or like a film from like the golden age of New York crime, like it's just absolutely wild, some of the things that went on. It's like spooky, and it's like, you're like, we've learned these things couldn't happen again. And I'm like, the ideas that cause these things are still there. And a lot of the reasons why sort of underclass crime is down is, number one, demographics. There's just fewer young people. The birth rates have dropped.
That's one of the topics, by the way, on the piece of paper, like fertility crisis. What's your take on that?
Yeah, let's talk about the fertility crisis, because, you know, this is related in a way, because the underclass fertility crisis, I'm obviously not super sad about the underclass fertility crisis, you know, because even the underclass is going below replacement fertility.
Yes.
Right. And, you know, it's the same thing that's sort of reducing crime, I think, in a way, is alternatives to life. Because if it's like 1973 and you're full of testosterone and you got to get it out, like, you know, why don't you just go mug some fucking person, why don't you just fucking white person, fucking mug him, you know, it's just like fucking fun. But now it's just like, you know, you could, but you
it's
could
low
also,
energy, apathy.
And you could also just smoke some weed and play Grand Theft Auto.
Oh yeah,
you know, and like, you know, weed is legal, weed is cheap. You know, why don't you just smoke some weed, get really high, and it'll be almost
GTA,
the same thing.
doom
Play some GTA, doom scroll, right? And that's, you know, people are like,
they're pacified.
They're pacified and they're dehumanized in a way. And when people are like, crime is down, I'm like, all right, yes, that's a number, but there's a number of reasons why crime is down, and they don't have to be good reasons, right? You know, if you said crime is down because people are getting more civilized, like the children of former gangbangers are going to college, maybe even good colleges, or studying sociology.
That's not the cause.
That's not the cause. That's not what's happening. It's actually a degradation. It's actually the drop in crime is really a drop in animal spirits. It's like we're being dehumanized, and crime is something that's essentially human, and you know, we stop even committing crime. It's like, you know,
castrated like a eunuch, you know. But like Robin, one of my favorite thinkers apart from you and biology is a handsome guy called Robin Hanson.
Yes.
And he just recently had a very good Substack post where he said that like he just asked ChatGPT like how many conflicts in history between young and old people. Who won these conflicts, right? And then like ChatGPT listed all these conflicts, and like 99 out of the 100 conflicts, young people decided for themselves. And the one that they didn't, it was like a kind of neutral kind of thing. It was like a the old people didn't really win. It was like a
that's interesting.
Middle ground. But one of the reasons is that young people there were just more of them. They were numerically superior.
There were a lot. The population pyramid had a totally different shape, and of course you see that. I mean, that has a healthy shape, and that has a lot to do with, you know, what happens in the 30s. Like you have a lot of. Not only do you have a lot of young men full of testosterone, you've got all these World War II veterans who are just completely hardened to like. Killing in blood and death doesn't bother them at all. They actually kind of miss it, right? You know, and that's a lot of No, I thought you were going to talk about the Robin Hanson sex tape.
No. Let's not go there. There are other interesting.
I'm just kidding. There's no Robin Hanson sex tape.
there is.
What?
No.
We're both getting on our phone.
Let's watch the tape. Let's search if it exists. But one of the things I want to get into with you is like about this book. I think you might have recommended that this Rules for Radicals thing, and we like in this kind of club, we actually want to kind of effect change, right? We want to act and not just talk and philosophize.
And
but
some of those rules will work for you, and some of them won't, because some things work from the direction of the left, and only from the direction of the left.
It's asymmetrical.
And some of does that one have the dedication in it though?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Here, let's have a look. Rules for Radicals, Practical Premiere. Yes. In the frontispiece, it says, to quote, you know, imagine having a quote from yourself in the frontispiece of your book. Like, oh my God, kill me now. And this really, I mean, all right, Rabbi Hillel, fine, but lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical. From all our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which? The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom. Lucifer. This book is literally dedicated to Satan.
Hi. We're evil. Hello.
Yeah, and it's like, when people tell you who they are, like, believe them. It's like the
just listen to what they say about themselves.
Listen to what they say. It's like the Jimmy Savile thing, where he's constantly making jokes about him being a pedophile, and he's actually a pedophile.
Yeah.
Or there's this guy. Do you know J.F. Garipi?
No.
He's an online. He's like a sort of. He's an online commentator of human biodiversity, whatever. But he had this thing where his wife disappeared. And he's like, oh, she just went into the woods and didn't come back. And it's sort of very, suspicious. And it's one of these things the police investigate, they're like, well, it's really weird that you cleaned out your car that well, but they don't have a body. They don't have any particular evidence. And she's also mentally handicapped, which is even weirder. So he marries this retarded woman. And then, I'm not saying, he disposed of her, but there's no evidence that he didn't dispose of her. And then he keeps making jokes about it online. And I'm just like, actually, if your wife actually disappeared and you were heartsick with worry and wonder and whatever, that's kind of the last thing you do. And so
that's this triggers the psychopath radar really hard.
It triggers the psychopath radar really, really hard.
Yeah.
And of course, leftism is that's an example of one. You must know the case of Hans Reiser.
No, I don't.
That's before your time as a computer scientist. So Hans Reiser was a very talented computer scientist, and he built a file system for Linux that was very innovative because it used small blocks. It was very good for small files as well as not wasting a whole half kilobyte block for hello world. Very innovative, interesting file system. It was integrated for a while into the Linux kernel. It was very advanced work, and he killed his wife. In this one, there's no ambiguity.
That's a plot twist.
He ordered a wife from Russia. She was, had a couple of kids with her. They quarreled, not to his satisfaction, and she disappears. And again, he's cleaned out his car. Eventually, he cracks and leads them to the body. So we know that he actually did this, right? But... it's it has, it has some of that. I mean, in a way, Garipi is creepier, because he's an unsolved case.
He did not crack.
He did not crack, and, but yeah, they're I don't know if we can still maintain this file system. Nobody wanted to work on the file system. He unfortunately named the file system after himself, which is totally fine unless your murdered wife, in which case it's not really fine. Reiser FS, whatever its genius works is no longer with us.
Wow, Reiser FS. Reißen means rip in German, so he's like Jack the Ripper in a way.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's just funny. Yeah.
Nominative determinism.
Yeah, nominative determinism wins again.
It's very powerful.
Scott Alexander always says that.
Yeah,
it's true though.
Well, Scott Alexander. Maybe we should talk about Scott Alexander.
Oh yeah,
what's your Scott Alexander take?
I think since he had children, unfortunately, his work has become a tad less original. But I am a big fan of him. Scott Alexander
he's a genius.
He's awesome. By the way, did you know that this guy, I met him once, Kevin Dolan, he does he's Bennett's Phylactery guy on Twitter. He does the exit group and the Natal Con. Yeah, he's a very, very good guy.
Very good guy.
Mormon, excellent guy. Mm-hmm. And he became aligned with you and people like you because he read Scott Alexander's
hippies,
FAQ, the anti-reactionary FAQ.
Yeah.
He read that, but he kind of found your side more convincing. And
what can I say?
I think that's how, if I remember correct, that's how he became
Based. Yeah, the Bay Area, we live amongst the Bay Area rationalists, and sometimes we go to their parties. I'll see Scott Alexander there sometimes. He's never particularly pleased to see me.
Really?
I have a lot of respect for Scott. It's true that when the press came after Scott, he edited his old blog post to remove mentions of me, which is kind of
It's very cringe.
It's an internet no, really.
You don't
and
do
then
that.
and then he gets beaten up by the New York Times anyway for knowing me, right? And it's like,
so never
run.
down. Just
don't back
just
down.
double down.
Double down. Don't run from them. Agree and amplify, and do it with a smile on your face. Do it with a smile on your face.
This is the pickup artist Curtis Yarvin show.
Well, I've never been actually a pickup artist. I have
But you're definitely red-pilled.
I'm definitely red-pilled, and I invented the red pill, or I invented the words, right? And I stole it from the Matrix. But I think actually, speaking of pickup artistry, it's really, it's in a way an important area of learning that those people did, because it's certainly like actually knowing those principles about how men and women interact and how sort of the mating game works is like, it's really important, even if you don't intend to be. You must know the Twitter poster, worst boyfriend ever.
Yes.
Yeah, even if you're not worst boyfriend ever, and you read his post and you're just like, oh, this is funny. And you're just like, wow, you are really the worst boyfriend ever.
You're actually the worst.
You're actually the worst
It
boyfriend
does
ever.
teach you reality in a way.
It does teach you reality,
You get a map of the territory, how it actually is.
You get a map of the territory, and you can use it. You can
in
use
good ways as well.
You can use that map in good ways as well, But I think that in general, I guess I have a certain level of antipathy to the rationalists, because they're like, I was a very nerdy young adolescent, right? Extremely nerdy, and it didn't help that I'd skipped 3 grades, and everything in my life was sort of intellectual, and in a way, I was sort of the perfect candidate to become a rationalist in a way, and I'm very lucky that I didn't. Actually, the thing that was really good for me, in a way, was to send me to an American public high school, which was an absolutely horrifying experience. But it sort of taught me, that I had to adapt to being a real human being in a way that I sort of couldn't kind of retreat into this, with the rationalists, you almost get this kind of geek nationalism, where they're basically like, I'm a geek and I'm proud, I'm nerdy and I'm proud, I'm going to be like, cringe and off-putting, and I'm proud of it, and ugly, I'm not going to look smacks, These people do not look smacks, and, applies to the woman as well. They also do not look smacks, which is it can be optional for a guy, but it's kind of not optional for a girl. You gotta look smacks.
You gotta look smacks.
You gotta look smacks.
While you still got time.
While you still have time, absolutely. And so, you'll go to these events, and it's just like, there's, when I went, as I commented on stage at the panel tonight, this is a room full of young, attractive people. The men are young and attractive. There's certainly more men than women, but the women are also young and attractive. And basically, if there's a party with no hot girls, something is wrong.
Yes.
And basically the thing is, if you go to a rationalist event, really the sort of critical number of sort of rating the event is not even the male to female ratio, which is always, terrible sausage party levels, right? Even amongst the women, it's the cis-to-trans ratio.
Oh, wow.
And it's often 1-to-1 or worse.
Okay. Well,
it's often 1-to-1 or worse. And
that's terrible, man.
Yeah, it's a sort of, and it's like to be sort of a nerd and like proud of being a nerd. It's like, there's a cowardice in it. There's a basically, I'm just like, Scott, you could work out, you could like, and to all these people, whether it's Scott, I mean, Scott is a celebrity. He's amazing. He's he's a really successful writer. He's an amazing writer. He's really good.
Huge communication
really
skills.
Good.
Writing.
Huge communication skills and writing, not really in person, but like he doesn't, I would not describe him as a charismatic person, but he could work on that, and like the sort of failure to say, like kind of the thing that happened to me in a way, my kind of big life epiphany was when I was like a junior, senior in high school, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't basically refuse the challenge of like being a normal human being.
Yeah.
Like actually, the weirder you are, the more important that challenge is, and the more important for you to basically
100%.
Take that test and like
just
pretend to be a normal
that.
person. And you know what? Well, you know what will actually do that? This is another pickup artist principle.
Yeah.
So there's again, I've never been a practitioner of any of these arts, but I've read about them. I know them well. And do you know what sarging is?
Sarging.
Sarging.
No.
The meaning of the word is obscure, but it's basically they're like, just go out and ask women out constantly, and you will get rejected, and you will learn basically that you can survive being rejected, and
it's
it
the
is
fear
fine.
of failure.
It's the fear of failure, and it's
like fight or flight. Like you've got to fight, and then like
you've got to fight, and then as you get better at it, you become more human because you actually
you're engaged with reality.
You're engaged with reality, and you're engaged with women, and women are this sort of amazing biological device for 100%. Judging men. Men judge women often in very superficial ways, sometimes not so, but the woman is built to judge a man in every way.
Even young, like they do it intuitively. They're like a force of nature. Like like women are reality. Like
women are reality, and it's like, and it's funny. It's I look at pictures of myself, 30 years ago, and I don't know if you'd say I was a twink, but I'm like very physically attractive, and like I couldn't get a date to save my life, and it's because they could sense. I mean, not that I was like charging or anything, but I think that they could sense my weakness and insecurity.
They feel it immediately.
They feel it immediately, and now it's like the reverse, right? And and of course, things that give women that vibe. First of all, the ring. They see the ring, and that makes them.
Social approval, or
it's a sort of social approval, and you see the ring, and it's not like there's some sort of evil woman who wants to be like a man stealer, but it sort of makes them feel safe in a way, but it also is like social approval that kind of creates a kind of attraction, and then you're just like not needy at all, right? I like women. I like to talk to women. I like to hang out with women. But fundamentally, I'm married, right? And so so you sort of have this feeling in a way. You're like going back and telling yourself like 30 years ago with a time machine, hey man, the girls all want you.
And, that's true. Like I also noticed that here, like all the women love you. All the women here love you.
What can I say?
But you also got a lot of like medium status males clearly looking up to you, and other women notice that as well.
Notice that as well.
You have even more social.
It's just an automatic biological response,
like
right?
and
women are not in control of their own way. They're in control of what they do. They're not going to drape themselves all over me, right? They have some restraint.
Of course.
But it's like it's so much of what drives men in that direction is this feeling of getting approval, of getting feeling like you won in a way, and that's as important as the actual like pleasure that comes from actually doing it. It's like rewards your confidence kind of continually. And women just love confidence. Like if you're confident, you can be fat, you can be ugly. This again is one of the pickup artist lessons. Guys are like, I'm not attractive enough for women, and then they'd see this like dumpy bald guy just like totally slay. And it's because he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
But actually, I think it's easier to be confident if you have a lot of things to be confident about,
course.
right?
Of course, and that's kind of part of the, the pickup artist thing is like actually, they're sort of teaching you to fake it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
no,
the better woman can tell instantly.
Yes.
They can tell instantly.
Is he faking it, or
is he faking it, or is he actually really confident?
Yeah.
And so the problem with faking it is that you basically get low quality women. And you get 100%. Low quality women not in terms of their like physical attractiveness necessarily, because very attractive women are often very insecure.
Yeah.
But you get women with unstable personalities, and nobody deserves that.
yeah, I know. Yeah. It's not worth it. Yeah, it's true.
No. It's really not worth it. But again, when you go back and you apply that wisdom to politics, because the public is a woman, right? You see that in a way, the sort of the equivalent of that is the famous Osama bin Laden line where he says, strong horse.
Yeah, man. Everybody loves a strong horse.
Everybody loves a strong horse in every possible way. And so, when the horse feels strong, you're basically like, everybody wants to be part of that. And so, for example, in UK politics right now, there's these two right-wing parties, Restore and Reform. And the thing is, they have a very different attitude toward the kind of the shit test of the mainstream, where, Farage of Reform, who's a brilliant politician, very talented in a lot of ways, and, is just like, but he's played the game of being the edgiest person in the mainstream, like very hard and very well. But when they come after them, he has to kind of weave and dance and dodge because he wants to stay in the mainstream. And that sort of forces him to commit to, things like saying, I don't think he said, if you've come here a week ago, you're British, right? Or if you believe in British values, which of course are really American values.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, as if they had some kind of MRI test for your values, right?
Yeah.
So, but basically, he's sort of been trapped into being like kind of a very wet, as they say in England. He's a sort of wet civic nationalist.
Civic nationalism.
Whereas Lowe comes out and it's just so like,
cool, man.
Millions must go.
Millions must go. How cool is that?
Must go. And it's like, actually, when you come out with that with confidence, it's really hard for them to like hit you. When you approach, it's like, dogs can sense fear, but like women can sense fear, and the public can sense fear.
They smell it.
And they smell it, and it's a bad smell. And nobody, it's a weak horse. It's bad luck. Get away from that horse. Get away from that horse.
I think this restore, right? Restore. It's called.
Restore
that's a good one. I think if they get this race driving guy, what's his? Jeremy Clarkson.
Oh yeah.
He did the Clarkson's Farm. I watched that. Great.
Yeah, it's a great
thing. If they get this guy, I feel like, I think Rocco tweeted this. Rocco's Basilisk guy.
Yeah,
I met him once. He tweeted this. If they get the Clarkson guy, they have a good shot. And
they're just practicing. It's so. They say politics is the art of the possible. Which is very, very true, and. For all of the 20th century, and we're only coming out of the 20th century in this sense, politics is the art of getting people to the polls to vote for you, right? And the way you get people to the polls to vote for you is broadcast media. For like the last 100 years, you're like, you're on the radio, you're on the whatever. Actually, in England, they have this thing where the BBC has to allocate time to people according to the percentage in the polls.
Yeah.
And so it's like this, and that's sort of informally the way they work anyway. So that's kind of this incredible incumbent protection device. Yeah. If you're only polling at 1%, then you get 1% of coverage from the BBC. How do you break out of that trap? How do you break out of that trap? And, we're just in a world where very different ways of getting people to the polls can be imagined.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So,
let's vibe code. Like, tell me what I should vibe code so that we like.
Do you have time for vibe coding? Do you vibe code much?
Well, I vibe coded the door lock system, right? I vibe coded some Urbit into it so that the opening mechanism is just an actuator, but everything runs on like a VPS Hetzner €5 a month thing. With like Urbit identities.
Very cool. Yeah, I saw that.
Like even Hoon can be vibe coded a little bit.
Yeah, I want to improve that. Like, it can be vibe coded a little bit, but like it's got to get way better. But but yeah, so let's talk about that from the start. It's like basically you come in from Silicon Valley and you're like. With a Silicon Valley sense, and you're like, all right, let's do it the Silicon Valley way. Hey, restore Britain. All right, how many installs do you have?
Yeah.
And they're like, installs? How many installs do you have? Like, how would you expect people to basically be part of your party if they didn't have the party app on their phones? How will they know when it's time to vote? How will they know who it's to vote for? Oh, they read the newspaper and like, do of their own motivation. Why would you rely on these people's motivation? Why would you rely on anyone's motivation? You just want to say, you want to make it easy for your user. Don't make it hard for your user.
Exactly.
Don't,
remove friction.
Remove friction. You want them to basically say, see something, see Rupert Lowe saying something cool. You're like, I like that man, that man's jib. Yeah. How do I support him? You're like, all right, what's the name of his thing? It's Restore Britain. You're like, obviously the way I would support Restore Britain is I would go to the App Store and search for Restore Britain. Yeah. And I click once and Restore Britain is on my phone and it asks me where I live and it asks me for notification privileges.
Yeah, yes.
And I give it the notification privileges.
Share contacts as well,
right? Maybe share contacts. Location is important because actually you're basically saying what you want the experience to be is essentially everything should be as easy as possible. You should do as little work as possible. You should be able to think about this as little as possible. You should be able to be like a diehard supporter of your movement or your party without ever watching the news, without caring about politics. You just have to have the one thought, very simple, stupid thought. I want my country back. How do I get my country back? Restore Britain.
Yeah.
5-second ad.
Yeah.
How do I get my country back? Restore Britain. And all you need is the app. You install the app. You're a supporter. You're a member.
Man,
you're part of the party. And it's just like this whole song and dance of like, oh, I'm going to produce good sound bites that will be on the BBC.
Yeah, that's the old game. It's the old game, right?
It's the old game. And you see people posting, of course, on X, it's this huge fight between the Reform guys and the Restore guys. People see people like being like, oh yeah, the reality is nobody's heard of this guy and nobody will ever hear of him and how will he be? And I'm just like, you're right, but these are the old rules. And actually like changing the rules, you have to admit that if you're going to make any serious changes to the way these systems work, you're going to have to change the rules. And, I think that I don't know, I hope the Zoomers running Lowe's campaign understand this, but I imagine they do, because it's very much a Zoomer. It's like they, he's a guy who's like 60 or whatever. But all his staff is Zoomers, right?
Yes, you need Zoomers under him.
Millennials, like, please, right?
Like
as a Gen Xer, obviously, I feel a lot of connection to the Zoomers. Whereas the Millennials are just like, how did this even happen? But the Zoomers have the same kind of cynicism. It's like to be an 80s Gen Xer person, you're someone who missed the 60s.
Yes.
Right. And you sort of feel that in a way. You have the 60s generation all around you. They remember this tremendous excitement. It's like my mother, for example. My mother was at Altamont, the famous Rolling Stones concert where the Hells Angels did security and killed a guy that was just a fiasco. But it was also like the West Coast Woodstock. It was like this incredible. It was this incredible one-time event, like with the Rolling Rolling Stones.
Oh.
And, you know, people describe the excitement of the 60s, and you're just like, to, you know, me say like 1984 or something, and I'm just like, wow, man, I missed that. But it's also like, wow, man, that could sort of, it went so stale, so hard that it kind of lost. In a way, it's like us after like the George Floyd experience. Like it must have been, what was it like experiencing George Floyd in Europe? That must have been so strange.
Yeah, it's surreal. Yeah. We have
tell
very
me.
few. Well, there are all kinds of graffitis up and all kinds of signs. Like if there's a protest, they bring all these signs that feel alienating. Like to me, like it's
They have no relationship to where we're living.
to like the reality you see.
You know,
like,
in Indonesia, they care about George Floyd.
Why?
You know,
Yeah.
in Mauritius, George Floyd. You know, Japan, probably not Japan, but like
it just shows you who's the cultural hegemon or like the cathedral or whatever. Like,
absolutely, it just shows you. I mean, it's this. That's the thing about the cathedral metaphor. You know, it's so. The fact that it's a decentralized system.
It's decentralized.
Like the blockchain in a way. It's a decentralized system that behaves like a centralized system. The blockchain is just a very robust centralized database, right? And you're just like, how can you get a decentralized thing to work like a centralized thing? It's the magic of the cathedral. It's the magic of the blockchain. Like you actually, it's a mechanism for sort of coordinating on what we all agree on. And this mechanism decided that the whole planet should agree that George Floyd and, you know, the dubious circumstances of his death are the most important thing in the world. And it's just like this insane. It's really, you know, there's so many things. So there's this guy, this famous 19th century book, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds.
Madness of Crowds.
And the Madness of Crowds, where he goes through the tulip bubble, the South Sea bubble, all these, the witch craze, all of these things. And he's like, his point essentially is that you can't trust public opinion. You know, George Floyd certainly belongs in like the madness of crowds, you know, and in a way, it was kind of an own goal for them, because it was like, as soon as the madness was over, you were just like, it was sort of like, oh, wait, I did that? It was like, just like, you're just like, oh yeah, like last weekend I got really high on crack and like had a threesome with 2 black prostitutes, you know, and you're just like, wait, I did that? Why did I do that? Right? You know? And it's like it was done by someone who wasn't even you know, and
like a trance, like
like in a trance, like people were hypnotized by, and in a way they're being hypnotized by, you know, the ideas of 2020 were not obviously new ideas. They were old new left ideas. These are, you know, ideas that are, well, they're 100 years old, if not 150 easily, but like, you know, new leftism hasn't really changed since like 1970. It's all like Frantz Fanon, you know, all this stuff. And it was taught in all Ivy League universities 50 years ago. And it was taught in Ivy League universities when I was there in the 80s and 90s. But the thing is, at that time, it was a sort of, you know, esoteric thing. Like, you know, there were definitely people at Brown in 1990 who were talking about the trans thing the way, you know, you're supposed to talk about it now. But it was obscure, it was esoteric. And because it was esoteric, it was a great way to sort of, you know, esoteric ideas mark out social boundaries in this sort of beautiful way. And you're just like, you know, I guess you're just not cool enough to see that a man can become a woman, you know, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I guess you're just not cool enough to understand white privilege, right? And what really put a serious damper on this thing was that the problem was it was killed by its own success, or was heavily damaged by its own success. Because once the idea of like every, you know, middle-class housewife in Duluth has a Black Lives Matter sign on her lawn, how can it be cool?
Yeah.
How can it be cool, right? You know, and so they burned up all of their coolness by sort of overexposing, you know, this niche fringe idea until it was no longer niche or fringe or cool, and then the idea is evaluated only on its own merits, and its merits, of course, are terrible. And so I think that you know, I think that will play lasting dividends as a sort of a place where kind of the wave gets to its height and then rolls back. On the other hand, you know, leftism always finds something. It always finds something that's acceptable to the elites, but not the masses. And they've experimented with a lot of different things. You must know, for example, in Germany in the 70s, the Green Party gets very into normalizing pedophilia.
Yes.
Even to the extent of this insane experiment where they send, you know, orphaned young boys to basically be adopted by pedophiles. It's unbelievable. It's like, you know,
it's crazy.
It's one of these things that, you know, you'll read about it in history books, like, you know, and you're just like, what? It's like when we read about the Holocaust, we're like, what mindset could have persuaded people in an organized way to do this, right? And the same thing for, like, you know, let's put orphan boys with pedophiles, right? You know, you're just like, what? Right.
Kind of reminds me of your COVID take.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're doing this like insane thing. Somehow normal bureaucratic scientific processes have caused you to act like a deranged mad scientist who collects viruses from bats in caves and modifies them to be more dangerous to humans, right? You know, and you can see the mad scientists say, the bat viruses, I'll infect them all with bat viruses. I'll put in a furin cleavage site, you know, so it infects humans. I'll put them in humanized mice and passage them through humanized mice until they're really efficient and infect the humans. And I'll infect everyone, right? You know,
all to prove you need funding.
All to prove you need funding, right? You know, and like, you know, and it's all like you're doing this like utterly mad science in this like banal, bureaucratic grant application kind of way, and it's like completely deranged. And then, you know, this is a bit I often do, but I love doing the bit because it's so amazing. Trump sweeps in, and one of the most amazing things about the 2024 election, I love the Arthur Conan Doyle, like the dog that didn't bark. You know what nobody talked about in the 2024 election? COVID. Nobody said anything at all about lab leaks, gain of function, lockdowns. It was like it never happened. And it was that.
But neither party did talk much
Neither
about
party. Neither
Why
party
is
talked
that?
about it at all. It was too real. It was too real. They had to basically play the game in the theater because it was just like, you know, where do you go? What are you saying? What do you take with that? Are you against science? Or it was just like, there's no way, you know, there's this how do you even...
If you look at the game tree, it's...
how do you even turn that into a Republican Party platform, right? You know, what are you even saying? And it's like, actually, so instead of this like incredible critique of the whole system that's like, this is an American Chernobyl, this basically is as much of a justification for regime change. I mean, you know, it's like it's this sort of express train beyond the Rubicon, right? And you're just like, you know, suddenly instead of crossing the Rubicon by like wading or swimming, you're like taking a high-speed train, you know, to Rome. And you're just like, whoa. You know, you're at the train station and the sign says Rome, and you're just like, I could just go to Rome. And, you know, I probably would fall asleep while the train crosses the Rubicon, you know, and then I wake up and I'm in Rome, and you're just like,
that went fast, huh?
And it's just like you see that, and you're just like, I don't know how to handle that. It's like I would be the dog that caught the car, you know? What is the dog going to do when it gets its teeth in the bumper? I have no idea. And so it's like it couldn't even handle that. And the result is, you know, and this whole incredible thing where, you know, Fauci, the virus king, who's been like the king of American virology for like 30 years, going back to like AIDS in the 80s, somehow both runs the gain of function program that creates this, and then becomes in charge of cleaning it up. It's like, you know, you're just like, it's like the levels of crazy are incredible. And
there should be a segregation of duties there, right?
You'd think, right? And, you know, so Fauci, he's old, he retires. Maybe you could have tried to stay on, but probably not. You know, and so they replace him. as head of virology with another virologist. I think Eichelberger is the name. Eichelberger did not, he's clean in the COVID thing. He did not work in gain of function in COVID at all. Oh no. Here's what made Eichelberger's fame. I think it's Eichelberger. I don't know how this happened, but let's just say it's happened. In the shower, a lot of great ideas come to you in the shower. That's true. You must know, he's in the shower, and he's thinking, he's musing, and suddenly it hits him like a bolt of lightning. I can resurrect the 1918 flu. He's like, I know how to resurrect the 1918 flu. He's like, because, you see, that flu was worldwide. And it went in the north. It went to Alaska. Whoa. And if I go to Alaska, there will be corpses in the permafrost that I can dig up and isolate the virus. The virus, and then I would have the 1918 flu, and I can infect everyone all over again. I think actually, I think actually it turns out that we're all immune to the 1918 flu because it turned into a normal flu like COVID, right? But nobody knew that. It could have been that he was, reinventing this pandemic, and he's like, but I could publish a paper. It would make me a star, and I'm just so like, cool, Jesus Christ, we're in mad scientist world, and
yeah, but the purpose of a system is also kind of what it does.
The purpose of the system is what it does, and once you realize that you're in kind of mad scientist world, this whole principle of governance by experts, suddenly you start seeing gain of function everywhere, and you're like, what is expanding NATO to the east?
Oh yeah,
it's gain of function diplomacy.
Gain of function diplomacy.
It's gain of function diplomacy. Like nobody can say really, why are we doing this? It's
why do we need NATO?
Why do we need NATO? Why do we need it?
Let's expand it.
We kind of told the Russians we wouldn't do this, but we didn't put it in writing, so it's probably fine. They'll look at the pay. We didn't get it in writing. It's okay. It's cool, right? And you're just basically doing all of this stuff that reads to someone like Putin as like aggression, basically. It's not military aggression. It's just like we're sort of taking more and more and more. Sure. And it's a sort of classic Anglo-American pattern of kick the dog until it bites, then call it a mad dog and shoot it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you're doing this stuff that becomes this kind of direct threat to Putin's regime. Not that Ukraine is going to invade not that the Ukraine is going to invade Russia, but it's sort of presenting this political alternative. Here's a beautiful free Russia. Why don't elites come from this, Putin state and live in be free. Yeah. Drink espresso in cafes in Kiev and, be trans and, all these things, right? And far from Putin being this world-conquering, Hitler with a,
he's a cornered animal.
He's a cornered animal, and actually, if he'd really been thinking in an aggressive way, he could have all of Ukraine in 2014.
Yeah, for the
bam, easily.
But that's one of the. I wrote this crazy article about the case for bullying. I just thought it was edgy and cool.
Yeah.
But people on Less Wrong hated it a lot. It got a bunch of.
And what is the case for bullying?
Well, the case for bullying is that there's there is a social approval. Obviously, there's a racial conjugation. This racial conjugation?
Yeah, of course.
It's probably from you or something.
Yeah. No, it's not from me, but
it's from Bernd Russell. But one of the things I wrote there, I just had to think of it. Advanced bullying is really about playing the victim all the time, right? Provoking something reminds me of your dog. Dog thing, cornered animal thing. And I also want to say about the mad scientist stuff that. We should have better mad scientists. We should have more original science.
Well, here's the other mad scientist thing with COVID that nobody talks about. So, we're all inclined to say, COVID, not a big deal. It was just a flu. Early COVID was nasty. A friend of my wife's, her lungs have not recovered from getting early COVID. It really killed people. It didn't kill everyone. It was, pretty survivable, but it was nasty.
It was actually,
and it caused lasting. It was nasty, and it caused lasting damage in a lot of cases, and it killed people if you were vulnerable to it. And
the vaccine is bad as well, but I think it was less bad than having the illness. I feel in the beginning, at least.
In most cases, an ex-girlfriend of mine actually had a thing where she got long COVID symptoms from the vaccine, and then she was cured by COVID itself.
Wow, no, that's ironic.
Well, that's ironic. Well, man, it was debilitating. It was like life.
It was
incredibly life-changing that she had this. And while I was dating her, she's like basically, she has a child and she can barely stay awake 6 hours a day.
Man.
She gets COVID. She's fine. And of course, the COVID that she got was Omicron. Omicron. And if you remember when Omicron, dropped, as you might say, when Omicron, new virus just dropped, babe. And when Omicron dropped, it was super interesting because, they looked at Omicron and they're like, this is from, in the sort of clades of evolution, they're like, this is from a clade of COVID that hasn't been circulating for like 9 months. Number one. Number two, it shows some signs of being adapted to rodents. Rats. Okay, so maybe the strain of COVID vanished from humans and it went down into the sewers in rats. Or who else uses rats? And I think the theory that Omicron was actually a live virus vaccine that was designed intentionally to be a mild strain of COVID that was very communicable and that was basically the flu, and it just wiped out the bad strains.
Wow.
Delta gone, Alpha gone.
That's cool.
Everything is
so
Omicron.
Cool.
And when I got Omicron in the I guess the spring, or the winter of 2022, I went to this event, this teal event in Miami, Hereticon.
Yeah.
Everybody, Miami
all the cool people go there.
All the cool people, go there, and it was totally, there was no lockdown in Florida, which was kind of fun. Everybody in that goddamn hotel, including me, my girlfriend and my ex-girlfriend, there were definitely too many girlfriends there, and got Omicron. And it was like actually getting Omicron. Of course, you were a little terrified of COVID, and then you get it, and it's just the flu, and you're like, oh my God, this is over for me.
Cool.
COVID is over. It's done. It's just the flu.
Yeah.
And
can I tell you something about the Omicron situation? Yeah. Like, I'm a huge transhumanist, and I also have this Lumina bacteria in my mouth.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is it working for you? Or
actually, I don't have real long-term studies, but I feel like my teeth feel slightly different. Like in a good way.
Yeah.
Really cool thing. I think Scott Alexander's wife is involved in that company as well.
Which of the,
Which one?
Sorry, as far as I know, it's complicated, but
there's a polyamorous kind of thing.
Well, the problem with polyamory is, it seems very sexy in a way, but most of the people involved in it are just not hot. And that's
but the kind of autistic.
It's autistic in a way. It's very Aspergery, and but anyway, go on. So you're a transhumanist, right? And Omicron, you were saying?
No, it was similar because Omicron wipes out the evil. Similar
it's just
to
no one would have allowed anyone to do that as like an intentional project.
You have to go do it covertly.
You have to go do it covertly, but covertly creating a virus that's really not that hard, and fingerprints are not on it. At most they can find out where it spread from, which in this case is maybe South Africa, which is also weird.
South
Africa, but I think someday someone will come forward and be like, actually, it was I who did the Omicron, and I fixed it. And
cool.
No, it was whoever did that, man. We really, humanity owes them something.
He's a Chad. Yeah,
he's a Chad. What other transhumanist stuff are you into?
I got RFID implants in my hands.
Does that can it open anything?
It opens that door. Yeah.
Amazing.
Otherwise, it's pretty useless because everyone has it on their phone, right? You don't really need it, but it's fun, right? It's.
What about? Did you ever think of getting the compass?
What is that?
You can get basically essentially a magnetic compass implanted, and you develop a sense of direction from it.
That's so cool.
Oh yeah, because it buzzes a little bit, when it's pointed north.
But I don't want to waste my neurons, right?
No, it's not. It's just it's not in the brain. It's just in the hand. But you basically feel it, and it becomes part of your sensorium.
Wow.
And so you are a person who feels like direction. basically, you know, but it's like any implant, it gets scarred up, it gets, you know, all sorts of, you know, the implants are...
I feel like we need to go far right. Do you have it? No.
No.
How much does it cost?
I have no idea.
Wow, that sounds so cool, man.
It's very cool, but I'll let other people do it.
Wow.
I'm a sort of transhumanist in principle, but maybe it's for other people. I don't know, but certainly I'm not someone who believes in just like, let's stick with natural biology. I mean, you know, natural biology went out the window a while ago. But
well, that's true.
But
I know that Thiel is very much into it. I liked his take on like transgender stuff, and he was like, transgender is like not trans enough. We need like to upload our consciousness, build bigger brains and stuff. But on the other hand, he's funding like these things like the enhanced games, which I find really cool.
Oh yeah, the enhanced games.
Yeah, man, that's so cool.
That's a classic. I don't know. I'd rather, he bought a senator or two, you know, but, yeah.
He does that well, though.
Yeah, I think that, the tech world is very young in its participation in politics. In many ways, it doesn't quite understand the game yet. And people sort of look at it, people are like, oh, these people have all this money and, you know, therefore they have all this power. And it's like, actually, no, that only, comes if you basically want power and want to and know how to turn your money into power. And these people don't want power. They just want to be left alone. And maybe in a way they can intellectually understand that the only way to be left alone in this world is to basically push back. They can realize that they've already the press is never going to leave Elon Musk alone, and like, there's no way of appeasing them. It's like once you're on their shit list,
but he's handling it well, though.
He handles it very well. But the thing is, he's not aggressively going out and basically being like, I need to unseat Mitch McConnell or anything like that. He's not going to war with his money, because he's constantly accused of going to war with his money, which isn't true. So he denies it.
It's reverse psychology kind of thing.
It's reverse psychology. And it's unfortunate because, like, it's not a matter of them being unintelligent or having a lack of knowledge, or it's just the whole reason they're libertarians, is that they
don't tread on me.
It's because they don't have the will to power.
Will to power.
Don't tread on me isn't like, I'm going to tread on you. There's no will to power. They don't believe in power. They're against power, actually. And that's a very visceral thing. If they were like, if they had a power craving, he'd be Reid Hoffman. He'd be a liberal, right? He'd be a junkie, and he's just not a junkie. And so to get him to, as I always say, the right likes power the way a wine snob likes alcohol, and the left likes power the way an alcoholic likes alcohol. And the alcoholic, is like, if it has alcohol in it, I'll drink anything. And the wine snob is like, this Cabernet is a little too dry for me. And I'm just like, motherfucker, like, when you're,
So how do we gain power then? Like, what do I do, Curtis? Like, want it more, or like, what do I actually do? What should people that have the will to power?
You have to understand the difference between yourself and them, I think, most functionally. And so, like, the app idea in politics is a good explanation of that. So basically, conservatives are always, people enemies of this regime are always like, how do people tolerate this? How do people tolerate, being replaced in their own countries and taxed for the privilege and all this stuff? And they're on this sort of kick of like, democracy is about how much energy you have. We need to motivate. People need to be more thymos. People need more thymos. They need more virtue. They need to be different people. And I'm like, your first step in your plan to use these people as political energy is to make them different people. Well, maybe you should think about political mechanisms that work given the people that they actually are. right? You know, and like given that they're actually like really frivolous and really like, you know, ironic in a lot of ways, you got to make it easy, you got to make it fun, you got to make it non-dangerous, you got to make it just like a little game that you play, like 3 steps, you install the app, and then you're a permanent vote for Trump or, you know, or for Biden or for Hillary Clinton. I don't care. You know, it's like actually, you know, this class of thing, what I call a voter assistance app, you can make it, you know, open source it and anyone can use it, right? It just will work better for us than for them. But I mean, basically the liberals already have this. They already have voter harvesting mechanisms. They already have, like, at least in America, it's a totally different thing here. But like essentially, you know, if you have a thing that basically maximizes power generated for a minimum of engagement, you basically start to be able to scoop up the disaffected voters who don't care. And like,
that's good. That's what you want, right?
Yeah, there's a huge number of votes out there from people who are just like, it's too hard. I don't know. It's Tuesday. I have other things to do. Who cares, really? Right? You know, and so actually, and the other thing is that you know, they're always trying to get people to be more sincere. They're like, no, you really have to understand that, like, this is destroying our country, right? And in a way, you know, there's this like, you know, the Clav approach is like, who gives a fuck, right? You know, it's like actually like, the winning approach is like irony maxing, you know, and like the and when you like irony max, right, you're just like voting as a game. You're voting for fun. You're playing your politics instead of becoming a duty and a chore. Becomes a fun game.
So remove friction, like gamify it, get an NFT or whatever, share with your friends, whatever.
Make it fun, make
all
it
the
easy,
startup
share with the friends. Growth hacking.
Growth hacking.
Like nobody has growth hacked elections.
Politics, elections.
I mean, and it's just so like you have all the resources there, all of the ideas there, and nobody has just growth hacked politics, right? And so they just sort of, instead of, you know, doing the growth hacking, they're like, it's like you're selling a product and you're just like very arrogant about your product, and you're like, why don't we have product market fit? The dogs don't like the dog food, and like you're like, well, we need better dogs.
Let's change the dogs.
We need better dogs. We're to teach the dogs. We'll have the dogs go into dog food class before the owners buy the dog food, right? You know, and I'm just like,
retarded,
it's just like, maybe take the dogs as a constant and the food as a variable. Like the customer is a constant. The product is a variable. Like, don't focus on, you know, learn what is it, the serenity prayer, you know, learn you know, to change the things you can change, and the wisdom to not change the things that you can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? This very basic thing. And instead, when they're basically trying to drive engagement in politics, at least in America, they resort to these incredibly like bargain basement, bottom of the barrel engagement techniques that are like right next door to spam. They're not actually spam. You know, it's like, for example, if you, I made an awful mistake that has really, it's life-changing. It's already changed my life. It's cost me, you know, enormously, which is that I made the mistake of donating to a political candidate because I was asked to.
Now you're spammed forever.
And now I'm spammed forever. And there's no way to get around the spam. And I'm just like, you know, and they constantly change the the way it works in the US is campaign, you know, small dollar private campaign funding, or for all I know, big dollar too, goes through these 2 platforms, WinRed and ActBlue. And they both do the same thing. And I get the ActBlue stuff now too, because I made the mistake of buying a Biden lawn sign because I wanted one just for humor. Because
for irony maxing.
For irony maxing, right? You know, and I kept it up too after Harris. And so I bought it for irony maxing. But what I didn't realize is that too is a campaign contribution. Bam, spam, right? I should have given a fake phone number, but I didn't. Man. And so both of these platforms work the same way, where you're just like, wow, why am I getting all this political spam? Oh, I see, it's WinRed. And you go to WinRed and they're like, we never spam you. We won't spam you.
Never.
There's no way to. No, they don't spam you. They just sell you to people who will spam you.
Oh, yeah.
And you then use different phone numbers every time, and you can't block them. And like, it's just like it's an incredible, terrible thing. And that's how you're getting your engagement, right? And you're just like, man, like you are just like your technology here
like 20th century
is beyond, it's beyond bad, right? And it's like, oh my God, like, if you were to say, just the goal is to get as many votes as possible for your candidate or party. How do you do that? And nobody knew anything about how politics was done. It would just be like, how many insults do you have?
How many insults?
Installs.
Yeah,
How many? What's your MAU, right? What's your
obviously,
all basic.
They should
stuff.
get a Sam Altman, like Y Combinator should do like a politics, or like Nikita Beer on Twitter. I don't know what you're. He's like all in removing friction, right? Or
Just remove friction when voting, right? It's so easy, and yet it's so. I don't know if you probably don't know much about the American system of political financing. Here's the way you spend money. Here's the way the normal American political system works. Yeah. First of all, to be competitive, you need money because money buys engagement. The way you buy engagement with money is, there's two things. There's earned media and paid media. Mm-hmm. So the way you get engagement, and you don't need money for this, you just need to be friends with the press, is that, you make speeches, and those speeches get covered, and the sound bites from those speeches go on the evening news. 5 p.m. everyone in America gets home from their 9-to-5 jobs and watches the evening news on either CBS, NBC, or ABC, or PBS if you're an upper-class communist. And there are no ads on PBS. There's ads on ABC, NBC, CBS, because upper-class people are too delicate to, for the hard sell. We're beautiful nobles. We're beautiful Eloy creatures, right? Yeah. So that's one way to get votes. Is to basically get good coverage. And the newspaper, everybody has a little boy riding by on a bike who throws a newspaper on their lawn every morning. So newspapers will cover you, and everybody reads the newspaper. And if somehow they don't, then you have to buy ads, and everybody watches television. They'll watch the baseball game. So on the baseball game, there's an ad with some pitch, and at the end it says, I'm John Smith and I approve this message. They added that in that requirement in the 80s. And here's the thing.
They have to say this all the time. That's why they say it.
They have to. Right. And it was just some stupid election campaign reform. And here's the most amazing thing about it. So when you want to get elected, suppose you're a guy who wants to be in Congress for some stupid reason. It's all very artisanal. You want to be in Congress and, for ego reasons or some bullshit. So how do you do it? Well, you need to raise a lot of money, and you give the money to political consultants. And the consultants basically do the campaign for you. And the way the consultants bill you, this is the amazing thing. So you hire them to produce these ads, and then you pay the TV station to play the ads. And you might think you hire someone to produce an ad, what does it cost to make a little video, to record me saying, I'm Curtis Yarvin and I approve this message. When you place those ads, you'll say you a Super Bowl ad, $10 million a Super Bowl ad. Well, if you hire a consultant to make a Super Bowl ad, they themselves will place the ad, and you'll spend $10 million or $5 million or whatever on your Super Bowl ad, and the consultant will take $1 million of it for making the ad, which cost them like $15,000. And if you don't like being ripped off like that, all right, you can use a second-rate consultant. Go with a cheap bid. Go ahead. I guess you don't really want to get elected, right? And that's the insane racket that is involved with broadcast media politics. That's how you generate your votes.
It's crazy. There's an incentive problem there.
Everything is fucked, right? And it generates, the ads, and nobody wants to watch these ads. They're terrible. They're like used car ads. You're like, buy the new Toyota Celica, with four-wheel drive.
It's very good.
Right? It's just it's such a turnoff at every level. And you're sort of reduced to marketing people out of the highest form of marketing is this product is amazing, it's fun, will change your life. And then it's will like guilt you into buying the product. We're like, you know, oh, if you don't buy this new car seat, your child might die, right? You know, and actually guilting people into voting, like guilt and shame, are one of the main engagement tactics that these political things use. Like, you should feel bad if you don't stand up for, like, you know, abortion rights or some bullshit, right? And, you know, the whole system is relying, I mean, it's just moribund in every way. The voters are barely engaged. The voters kind of know at a certain level that the politicians that they elect are kind of just celebrities who don't really control the government anyway. For any election except the presidency, there's basically zero real emotional engagement. It's more like name recognition. Like, how many times have you seen this name on lawn signs is what drives this. And what's funny is, I mean, Trump has changed this to some extent, but in the modern American system, the country is governed by Congress. Like, the president is kind of like, you know, not quite a figurehead. Trump has tried very hard to reverse this and really have an impact on actual government. He's still very far from being like a CEO. So the country is run by Congress, and nobody cares about congressional elections. And Congress as a whole has a like 22% approval rating.
Why does nobody care about congressional elections if they're so important?
Because they're not actually rational voters. They're emotional voters. They're not driven by their, you know...
So the app should tell them, like...
Oh, yeah, the app is like...
The app would be like, do this.
Do this, do that. And, you know, when you have the app, here's what you can do. You can basically... So you know the Congressman AOC? You've seen her?
Of course.
You know, do you know how AOC got to be a congressman? Woman.
It's a weird story. She was a bartender. She was
a bartender, and she answered a casting call.
Casting call.
She was cast. Like an actress.
Oh,
right?
Man.
And they're basically looking for people with no political experience who are, you know, charming on camera. It's way back there. It's and she's cast. And like, and so here's what happened basically. Here's the story of AOC. The story of AOC is she's cast in this casting call. And the casting call is run by a fellow named Saikat Chakrabarti. Saikat Chakrabarti was an early Stripe employee. So he had a bunch of money, Stripe, and also, you know, I hate to say it, but sadly, hardcore communist. Okay, so he forms this organization. He has some money. He has this brilliant idea. His brilliant idea is, I'm going to cast a bunch of people to vote to run in congressional elections. And when they win, since they're not politicians, I mean, you know, congressmen they're not statesmen in any way, shape, or form. The job of a congressman is to act and to make fundraising calls.
Yeah.
They don't write the legislation. They don't really debate the legislation. Their staff doesn't even write the legislation. They get it from like lobbyists, right? None of this is real. There's no parliamentary debate procedure or anything. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
So Saikat is like, it's all bullshit. So let's behave as if it's actually all bullshit. You know, and he's like, all right, we'll cast some good candidates and we'll run them in the primary and then in the general. And I'll get like 5 representatives. And then when they get in, actually, I'll be all of their chief of staff, and really, I'll just be a super congressman with 5 votes. Because I will run all of their offices because they don't actually care because they're fucking bartenders, right? You know, and so it's this kind of genius.
It's genius.
It's genius. It's genius. It's genius. You know, Saikat actually follows me on Twitter. I should go and have lunch with him someday.
Yeah, you should.
You know, he's actually running himself, I believe, now. And as one does.
One more piece of leverage.
More. So here's what happens to Saikat. So his plan works for only 1 representative, but it works for AOC. And AOC
works hard.
Works hard. She's a fucking star.
Yeah.
Everybody loves her. And, you know, she gets elected. She makes Saikat her chief of staff. Everything's going great. She goes to see Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is like, love your tits. You're amazing. Do you know there's actually a photograph of John F. Kennedy staring at Nancy Pelosi's tits?
Oh, no, I didn't know
that. She was the daughter of like the mob mayor of Baltimore. And so, she's sort of she's totally mobbed up, in that way, right?
Interesting.
And
like Kamala Harris also had like mob or like shady kind of things.
Very shady. That's it's very shady.
Right.
Do you know how many degrees of separation are? You know who Jim Jones was? The Kool-Aid. Drank the Kool-Aid.
Ah, yeah, the sect leader, the leader.
Do you know how many degrees of separation there are between Kamala Harris, the 2024 presidential candidate, and the Reverend Jim Jones, who gave hundreds of people Kool-Aid in Guyana? One. And one through several, paths as well.
Yeah.
Because actually Jim Jones was a core member of the San Francisco Democratic Progressive Coalition in the 70s. And a core ally of his was Willie Brown, and Kamala Harris was Willie Brown's mistress. And that's how she got into politics. I tried to forward that to the Vance campaign, and the Vance campaign wouldn't even touch Willie Brown. The fact that the candidate, for president was the 35-year age gap girlfriend of the married speaker, of the married black speaker, and nobody wanted to touch that. And so the fact that it had Jim Jones also involved is just, you're just like, what? But anyway, so, I've digressed here. So, she gets elected and she goes to see Nancy, and Nancy loves her. But Nancy has just one question. Who's this Pajit? Who's this psychotic guy?
Who's this psychotic guy?
Yeah, because who sent him, right? Who brought him? He's not anybody.
You're great.
And you're great. And of course, AOC does the sensible thing and throws him under the bus.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it worked, but it didn't work. So now you have the app. All right, now we have the app. Yeah. It's a little different. So let's say Donald Trump can achieve 40 million installs. How hard? He's got 70 million people who voted for him. They all have fucking phones. How many people would be like, I would vote for Trump, but I'll never install that app on my phone? Right? He could drive that, and he could drive those installs relatively easily. He drives those installs. And then anytime there's an election, the app wakes up and it has you vote for Donald Trump. Now, there's two kinds of elections. There's ones in which Donald Trump is running personally. Obviously, you've probably heard about that already. But actually, Donald Trump is running in every election. It's just that if he can't run personally, he appoints someone else. So perhaps, say you're in a primary, election for animal control officer of Volusia County.
Yeah.
Actually, Donald Trump is not an animal control officer, but he knows some great animal control officers, and it's actually, he's just like, here's your notification, go to the polls.
If you love Trump, vote
Trump, vote for Helen Wolf she's great with wolves, she can handle any dog, right? You don't even need to know. You don't know who this person is. You don't care. Yeah, this is the way they vote actually for MPs in England. There's a name when you vote for parliament, everybody ignores the name. Nobody has any idea or cares who this person is. They just vote for the party.
Yeah, they just look at the party. It's similar in Germany as well.
Yeah, they just look at the party. You have these names. Who are these people? It doesn't matter. And Americans are just so focused with the fake gay, LARPy thing. They're like, I'm concerned about this candidate's moral standards, and here has some unpaid credit card bills. And what about the candidate quality? And is this really the statesman that we want representing? Yeah. Is this person going to adequately stand up for us as he controls the animals, right? Something.
That is not a disaffected voter.
How
many of these people?
It's just like, who cares? It's just data. It's just data entry. And so it's just data entry. It's just data entry, right? Voting is just data entry. And eventually, actually, when people realize that voting is just data entry, eventually you don't even have to do it. It's uploaded directly to the server. And it's uploaded directly to the server, and you just say, I vote for Donald Trump, and everyone Donald Trump supports, and then you just automatically vote in every election. Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful. And you could do it in a crypto blockchain kind of way as well.
Sure. And so you basically say, all right, I'm Donald Trump, and I have some money. I have a little more money than Saikat Chakrabarty. He do this with his own money, and we are going to cast a candidate for every congressional race. We are going to have a massive reality show casting call.
You're going to scale Chakrabarti's tactics.
Yeah. Scale it up 100x and basically cast someone for every seat. And in the primaries, where only 10 or 15% of people vote, you'll win everything.
Wow.
You'll be able to sweep away, if you have an incumbent Republican, say Mitch McConnell. Oh. Right. You find someone who's willing to run, just use their name, no previous political experience required. In fact, no previous political experience allowed, because these people are just nominees. And when they basically get in office, you need to control all of those votes. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And so
you blank slate kind of.
You nominate Joe Bloggs who's someone who the hell cares who this person is, right, to run against Mitch McConnell. In the primaries, Mitch McConnell is used to being completely unopposed. Suddenly this flash mob.
Yeah, it's a flash mob.
It's a flash mob. This flash mob shows up and basically, just swamps him completely in the primary. And you've just destroyed sort of the old party, which is actually Trump's real enemy, is the old Republican Party.
Oh, that's the deep state kind of.
Well, it's an aspect,
It's an aspect
it's the
of
uniparty,
kind of,
right? You sort of smash the uniparty. Then, even if you can elect just 100 of these people, they're a completely reliable vote. Because if you're a Trump congressman and you vote against Trump, why would you do that? What? That's weird. And obviously you're not going to be on the slate next time.
That's the end of your...
That's it. You're done, right? You're just like, you didn't take the deal, right? And so you basically get the result of that, if you do it right, is you get a president who's also the prime minister.
Ooh.
He controls two branches.
Totally.
And actually, if he does the Senate as well. The Senate is harder because the elections are staggered. But then, the third branch, if you have the Senate, you can just pack the court. You can appoint as many justices as you want. So basically, to someone, this plan, this design, which I've posted about quite a bit, and which is now, very much in the public domain, anyone who basically sees this, you wouldn't even have to see this. Anyone who really wanted power would invent this on their own. It's not hard, right? And
especially nowadays,
especially a vibe code. You could vibe code this app, right? And you could do it in a weekend. The hard problem is probably finding the data sets, because you need a data set for every American election, and that is a very complicated, big data set. Claude can do it.
Claude can do it.
You might have to buy some data. There might be some budget there, but you could vibe code this app in a weekend.
What about the cold start problem, right? How do you attract users?
That's the problem. The fundamental problem is you need the politicians, you need actually the leaders to want to do it. And the fundamental problem here, the reason that this is not happening, is that basically Donald Trump does not contrary to popular belief, Donald Trump does not wake up every day in the morning and say, I need more power. I need 100 times as much power as I have.
Yeah.
Because they're constantly accusing him.
They're accused of that, so he does the opposite.
They're accused of that. It's the trap, right? They accuse him of that, so he does the opposite. So, the mindset of how do I scale my power? How do I grow? It's basically, have you heard the term lifestyle business? This is the worst insult.
Yes,
this is you're doing politics as a lifestyle business. You got to grow exponentially. You like the lifestyle of being president. You're on TV. You're doing whatever.
But you don't actually want to grow your business.
You don't actually want to scale your power, right? And you're not thinking, what could I do with 10 times more revenue, 10 times more funding, 10 times more power? You're not thinking like a startup. And why do you expect to win if you're not thinking like a startup? What the fuck? Get out of my fucking office. And I'm like, oh, excuse me, no, a VC will never say get out of my fucking office. That will be more like, yeah, wow, this is a really interesting idea. I think it's a little early for me. Let's keep in touch, definitely keep in touch. I can't wait to see what you come up with next, right?
Yeah, sure.
They never say no, right? And they definitely never say fuck you, and it's very hard for you to get them to say what's wrong with your shit. If you don't know what's wrong with it, you shouldn't be in their office. You know, I remember one time I worked on this pitch. We had this beautiful deck with our co-founder. We were like so confident we had the most beautiful deck of all. And you look at this in retrospect and it's like, it's totally a shit deck. It's like a C deck maybe for an A round. The graphic design was just, I mean, my co-founder was a graphic designer.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It's beautiful, right? And it was just like a total fail because I didn't really understand what I was doing, right? And, you know, Silicon Valley is a 100% learning experience. And I'm just like, my God, you know, Silicon Valley gets involved in politics and their first reflex is to do it the traditional way, not the Silicon Valley way. They're not like hacking the process. And you would get to the place that if you even thought about how do we hack this process to generate 100x more power with the same levels of voter, you know, energy, like, you know, I've just applied very, 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 very basic Silicon Valley thinking here. Like, this isn't like advanced.
This is like advanced.
This is just like, you know, bread and butter, you know.
Y Combinator starter pack.
Yeah, this is not even Y Combinator. This is like just 500 startups, you know, or whatever. Some shit tier accelerator that you've never even heard of, right? You know, and you know, it's sort of, in a way, the fact that it's sort of such an obvious idea is just like, again, you have a cold start problem unless you can get basically people in the political system to believe in it and care about it. And when I basically try to do that, I hear crickets. I hear nothing.
Why is that? You have high prestige.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. It's like, you know, the thing, you know, prestige alone won't sell anything. And no, it's because they don't wake up in the morning every day and think, how can I make my startup?
They don't have the will to power.
They don't have enough of the will to power. They have some, but the thing is, basically, when you get to Washington, power is scary when you're in Washington. Power is responsibility. Real power involves real responsibility and real accountability. Otherwise, it's just fake. And responsibility and accountability are the things that everyone in Washington fears. So actually, like, playing the game for, you know, it's like the foreign policy stuff that I talked about, like the fucking stupid fucking Greenland fucking bullshit, right? Where you're just like, this is a spectacular own goal in public diplomacy, and it's like damaging everything we have in Europe. And if you look at this map of like Trump's approval in Europe, it's like ranges from like -20 to -80, right? You know, and you're just like, but here's the thing is, it sells to Americans. American Trump's base likes him going out and threatening to invade Greenland or whatever the fuck, right? Trump's base likes him basically taking the instruments of soft power and saying, oh, instead of pressuring you constantly to be more left-wing, we'll pressure you now to be more right-wing. And the fact that this doesn't work at all and is in fact hugely counterproductive kind of doesn't matter to them, because they're actually not, if they were like, we really want the power dividend that we can get by destroying the, you know, old regime in Europe, they would be like on it like white on rice. But instead, the sort of limit of what they, you know, can imagine wanting to do with foreign policy is like, you know, looking tough to people who watch Fox News. And, you know, like the we're going to do soft power in the other direction. We're going to pressure, you know, these lefty European governments to like be more righty. Same shit Reagan was doing, but with communism, it backfired for that too. You know, it's actually a way of supporting these people, not a way of destroying them.
It gives them thymos.
It gives them thymos. It like restores their, you know, it restores their pep. It's like Viagra for the left, right? You know, suddenly they all have hard-ons. Oh my God, I thought I could never have a hard-on again. You know, but here I am with this, you know, huge lead pipe in my pants, right? You know, and so in a way, that choice, when you sort of make that choice to basically to engage on the level of the symbolic and not on the level of the real, you know, that is a very karmically laden choice, because it's like basically, you know, Every lie is a debt that has to be paid.
Yes.
And that debt is going to be paid when you lose the next election and you're fucking prosecuted and you're lucky if you spend $1 million to avoid going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's going to happen. And they're going to investigate every single Trump appointee. They will industrialize it the way they did with January 6th. They will prosecute everyone.
I'm sure of that, but don't the Trump appointees realize that fact? And
no, because
doesn't it motivate them to... We don't want to gain power, we just want to survive after like 4 years.
Yeah, and then...
not get executed or put in prison forever.
Yeah, it's just that they don't live in history. They live in sort of the context of the game of Washington. And in the context of the game of Washington, they sort of don't realize that in a way that game is over. Yeah. And actually, we're in late stage republic now, and it's not a question of issues in politics. It's a question of who is to be master, and that's all. That's all. It's fuck issues. Issues are done. Even
issues are done.
Issues are done. Even the issues that Trump has succeeded in, like. So much, like he closed the border, hasn't been done in basically my lifetime. Yeah. He's actually closed the border. There's negative net migration. There's whatever. Those things are so easy to reverse.
Yeah.
Trivial. 3 days.
Yeah, that way, in that direction, it's way easier.
Oh, yes. And
the cost per person is...
you just blow a hole in the fence. You're done.
That's it.
And there's this picture of when Texas under the Biden administration decided it was going to fortify the border itself. Biden sent bulldozers to get rid of the barbed wire and keep the border open. And there's this amazing photograph of the federal bulldozers holding open the barbed wire so that people can stream up from the south under the fence. It's incredible. And so they're going to do that, but much more boldly. And we're like, oh my God, we're getting 2 million immigrants a year under Biden, 3 million. It's nothing. Those numbers are nothing. Yeah. We're going to get 20, 30 million a year. We are going to be absolutely swamped and flooded. And so your thing of giving a shit about issues and patting yourself on the back for your wins, means absolutely jack shit. It means absolutely jack shit in reality. And the reality is you need to win every election from now on. Every fucking election. And if you even lose the midterms, the administration will be completely on the defensive for the next 2 years, not get any wins at all. And, it won't really look like a strong horse in 2028, will it now? And so actually, basically, the fact that they're not fighting for more and more power is just they think it sort of indicates moderation and restraint, and all right, we won, we'll chill out. But actually, it's death. It's absolute death. And it's absolute death. And the thing is, the really promising start this administration had, where it really terrified people, it really scared the shit out of people, because they were just going and Doge was just going and killing things by killing their funding without any legislative authorization whatsoever, and it was just working. And it was like the end of Inception, these buildings were just falling down. Yeah. But they didn't realize at all what they were doing. The people running Doge, some of the people in the front lines, of course, got it. But the people running Doge really thought that they were there to save money. The goal is to save money in a soft currency, which you can fucking print. The goal is to save money, right? And I'm like, no, the goal is to destroy the enemy. Yeah. And it's actually, whenever you're in a military context, the goal is not to take territory. The goal is not even to cause, casualties. The goal is to destroy the enemy. And Clausewitz's over there, you've got to focus on the single point that is irrelevant and lose every other focus. And you're like, we got to invade Greenland, for national law, because global warming. Well, the ships will go around Greenland, and we have to. And it's just lifestyle. Yeah, it's lifestyle. It's politics is a lifestyle business in a way. I mean, and the lifestyle of being president, it's an amazing fucking lifestyle.
It's
but actually, it's just, someone had a nice Twitter line that I used as sort of a black pill thing, where it's in a way, when I look at Trump, I kind of see the last pagan emperor.
The pagan emperor.
The last pagan emperor. Because basically, you know, the pagans, you know, Christianity is the rising revolutionary kind of woke force there. And the pagans are like, they're not capable of wiping it out. And so they have to win every time, and it only has to win once. Right? And whenever you're in a struggle where the rules of the game are, you have to win every time, and they only have to win once.
At some point,
you've got to change the rules because you're going to lose. You've got to change the game.
Change the game.
Change the game because you're going to lose.
About changing the game, can I get your
great thing? But you just don't mistake it for Israel.
It's
don't mistake it for Israel. Don't mistake it as a solution to this problem. You know, even when people like, you know, Napoleon and Clausewitz agree, like, if you want to win, find the decisive point and concentrate all energy on it. All your energy on it.
Mass of
you know, concentrate, and the mass of energy is basically, how do you win elections without asabiya? It's very simple. How do you win elections without a virtuous, motivated, responsible, diligent, virtuous, I repeat myself, electorate? And the answer is, you got to gamify it. You just got to play, you know...
appeal to the other electorate. Appeal to the electorate that is not like that.
You know, and you've got to actually make something that, you know, in a logical and not emotional way that attracts people who almost don't care, not enough to make them die for something, just enough to make them install a fucking app.
Install the app.
Just enough to make them install the fucking app and respond to the fucking notification. Not everybody, you know, people will ignore the notification, sure. But it's like, actually, like, you A/B test that shit.
You A/B test.
You A/B test, you know.
You do all the growth hacks.
Like, what does it take to actually get people to follow the notification, right? You know, and it's like, it's just, you know, nothing sexy, nothing romantic about it. It's just ugly, like, pound the shit out and make it work.
Hustle, grind.
It's grind, it's grind. And, like, nobody wants to grind. It's like, you know, Paul Graham has this term, which is very, very useful.
He blocked me on Twitter.
He blocks a lot of people on Twitter. He has this term which is very, you know, almost defines one of the essential qualities, or it's the inverse of one of the essential qualities you need as a startup, you know, guy. And the term is Schlep blindness.
Schlep blindness.
So a Schlep, that's a Yiddish word for like a grind, like, you know, something that's just hard and stupid and ugly, basically. And Schlep blindness means...
Schleppen means carry in German, but like, it's really hard to carry it.
Right. And so Schlep blindness means you don't see how you can win by just doing the dumb, grindy thing. You're always looking for doing things that
the easy way,
good.
The convenient way.
You're always looking for the sexy way. You know, like the Schlep
like
is
the
not
trick.
sexy.
What's the little trick?
What's the trick play? You know, the quarterback will pass it to the receiver, and then the receiver will pass it downfield with the quarterback, and you know, like, it's just like, no.
You got to put in the work.
You got to put in the work, and you've got to think in this really deep, grounded, sensible way, and that's what it means to like engage with reality in a way that's genuinely effective. And like, I just don't see people doing that. Fundamentally, I don't see people doing that. I don't see like this sense of, you know, these people are realistic, like, you know, the people in the Trump administration. There are a lot of very good people in that administration. They're very effective sort of within the frame that they're operating in, but the frame that they're operating in is fucking doomed. It's, you know, because it's like, you know, well, they're behaving like they won. And they haven't won shit. And like, and it feels to them.
It feels great to
them. It
them.
feels to them every day like they won. They're walking down the 7th floor of the State Department. Really feels like they won. Feels incredibly great. But it's like, you know, you go into, you know, the State Department in specific, and like the Trump people in there feel like a temporary occupying force. They're like, Trump in office is like Duke Leto in it, you know.
Duke Leto trace,
and actually maybe literally, like, the chances of assassination are quite high. And, quite high.
Really
and
high.
Absolutely, same for Vance. It's a very, very dangerous job. And so, you know, the fact that you're doing this very, very dangerous, like, you're taking all the risks of going to the Rubicon, but you're basically doing it in a way that guarantees that you have a very low chance of winning or even surviving in the long run. because you're basically don't realize that the level of power you have right now is not sustainable. Either it goes to 0 or it goes to 100x.
Yeah.
All right, I should get to bed. It's late
fine.
night here in beautiful Vienna, and I have to take the train tomorrow. What time is it anyway?
It's 4:30 a.m.
Jesus fuck. All right.
Thanks for the conversation.
A great pleasure as always.
Yeah.